Right, Jahred Dell, thanks for coming on.
I've been doing jiu-jitsu for over a decade now. My full-time job is being a high school teacher, yeah.
To viewers of this podcast that don't listen to your podcast like I do, because I've heard some episodes, please explain who you are and what you do and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so firstly, thanks for having me, man. I don't think I've been on many other people's podcasts. I'd barely call mine a podcast if you can, but essentially I do a little bit of a podcast every now and then, very occasionally, just kind of like stream of consciousness level stuff about jiu-jitsu and coaching and kind of the philosophy around martial arts, I guess. So yeah, I've been doing jiu-jitsu for over a decade now. I used to run a blog called Articulate BJJ, which is where I get my Instagram handle from. And yeah, I'm a high school teacher, so yeah, there's no pro jiu-jitsu guys in New Zealand, I guess, but my full-time job is being a high school teacher, yeah.
Yeah, cool, man. Yeah, pro jiu-jitsu in New Zealand is like living out of your car and just like scrambling to get mat time, you know?
Yeah, trying to eat free gear from sponsors.
Yeah. So first of all, how did you get into it, like to start with? And my second question on top of that, what do your high school students think? They must be like, bro, my teacher can choke your ass out, you know?
Yeah, so, I mean, the longer one to answer is probably the first question. Yeah. I've kind of always done martial arts. Like my parents put me into like judo when I was like in primary school and stuff like that. But I really only got back into martial arts as like an adult when I was at high school. I moved from South Africa to Christchurch and went to Christchurch Boys High. And I got introduced through our friends to Jahred Dell, who was in my year level at school. And he was already doing pretty well with Muay Thai and things like that. And I was just like, fuck, this is like so badass, man. And then started training then, doing Muay Thai and stuff like that. And in the gym that we were going to at the Academy of Combat in Christchurch, they did have jiu-jitsu on the side, but like, so I was familiar with what it was from the UFC and stuff like that. And never really tried it until 2012. I was like in my last year at uni in Dunedin. I was doing boxing and I was like, far out, like boxing's quite tiring, eh? Like, not sure I'm like enjoying this anymore.
Yeah. I wish I could just sit down and fight like that.
Yeah.
That would be ideal.
What I really want to do right now is just like lie down. So in the gym I was at in Dunedin, they had gi jiu-jitsu, like a Gracie Humaida affiliate. So I was like, you know what? Like these dudes are just like in like the gi lying down, kind of had a concept of what was going on. And yeah, so I started it then in 2012, had some time away from the sport. I trained for like 6 months in Dunedin, moved back to Christchurch, started teaching. And then 2014 is like, I kind of only really count it from then because from 2014 until now, I've never stopped and trained like pretty much every day. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I kind of count it from 2014. And yeah, in Christchurch, I started back at Axis and I was like, okay, like this is probably the most constructive thing you've done with your life so far. You probably need to stick at this. And then, yeah, pretty much just did from then, and yeah, so I've been pretty much training full-time and competing full-time as long as I've been a high school teacher. So like, I don't know, like I don't necessarily hide it from my kids. Like I find like, I don't want to say like I'm the cool teacher, but you know, like when I introduce myself to my kids, at the start of every year, like if I've got a new batch of kids, the first thing I tell them is like, hey, a big part of my life is being a coach and competing and doing this thing called jiu-jitsu. So I don't know, like I don't really try to gas it up to be some like super intimidating thing. I'm just like, it's just like, I don't want them to be like, oh, like this guy's like a menace or whatever. I'm just like, yeah, you know, it's like just part of living a healthy life and things like that, because I find, yeah, I mean, I don't want to scare kids, eh? Like, yeah, it's not really my vibe.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if healthy is the word necessarily I'll use. I mean, I'm in pain as we speak, but you know, it's something.
Healthy is maybe not the right way to look at my obsession with the sport.
I mean, it's probably healthier than just sitting on the couch. You know what I mean? But like,
yeah, man. So yeah, like I would say most of my kids do it. I mean, some of the kids from my school even come and train at our gym in Newmarket.
Wow.
So, you know, I just go, hey, you know, like at school, I've got a different hat on, you know, and then when we come here, we can have fun and it's kind of a different hat. But they understand. I mean, kids aren't dumb, eh? Like, yeah, you know, high school age kids kind of know what's up. So,
yeah, it's funny. We had a like when I was in high school, we had a teacher. He was an English teacher. So again, this was a Christian school, right? Yeah. So English teacher, and like very young for like at least looked young. I'm not sure what his actual age was. Right. And I feel like he felt the need to like play the tough guy because like otherwise we won't respect him, you know? Yeah. And so he would be like very mysterious and very like, hey, you know, but then every once in a while he'll let it slip and like, oh, he's actually a really cool dude, you know? And so in a way you kind of like loved him for the fact that you could see through it, you know? Yeah. And then again, this is a Christian school. Turned out he had like full sleeve tattoos that we'd always cover. Right, and he was in a Screamo band. And when that footage leaked, brilliant. I don't know who the hell found it, but we were just like, okay, this guy's the fucking man.
He's just like, oh, well, that's my career done. Like.
And it was just cool. Hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I think that's always, I mean, especially because you're in the public sector as like a teacher, you know, there are things that I worry about, like, oh, okay, how's that perceived by students and stuff like that, you know, and parents as well, because, you know, it is one of those things where you're like, I don't necessarily want to like the parents of my students to see me like heel hooking a dude and like ripping their knee apart. Like, but yeah, I'm not one of those dudes who like, I'll win a match and then like get up and scream and I don't do that. Like,
wait, so you don't win by advantage and then start screaming at the crowd when it's not a world final?
I wish.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I really wish I was, but yeah, maybe that's why I haven't really won anything important.
Yeah. No, that's cool, man. So you started competing like super early on into it, eh? Like, and you're competing pretty often as well, like from the start.
Well, I mean, the competition scene wasn't really what it was back then that it is now. Like I started competing in 2014. Like I remember I started at Easter time in 2014, and then there was a competition coming up in October, and it was like a competition in Blenheim, like a Marlborough competition. I can't remember what it was called now, but that came up, and they were like, hey, so the coaches at my gym, Trevor Johnston and Hayden Bucknell, they were like, hey, there's this competition coming up. If you want to get ready for it, we're also going to do circuit training after sessions. So if you
and this was your first one,
yeah. So granted, back then I think I need to preface it. I was like 130 kegs, super out of shape, like just
pressure out of this world,
bro. Just nah, I had no pressure. I couldn't get off my back. I was like useless, bro. Yeah. I wish I had that pressure now, but So I was like, oh, okay, you know, I don't know what a competition's like at all, but I mean, I'm guessing it's going to be quite intense. I should do these sessions. And I remember doing like every single one of these circuit sessions and then training like 6-7 days a week. And I got down from like 130 to like 93 kgs in like the lead up to that. And then did gi and no gi in that competition. And that was like my first experience with competition, and it was fucking scary, of course. Like the nerves and stuff, I think, were the easiest for then ever because I had no reference.
Yeah, and no expectation.
Yeah. I remember in my first match in the gi, hip throwing a dude into side control, and then like fully having an adrenaline dump and just getting tunnel vision, and then getting reversed and just spending the bottom side control for the rest of the match, but. I got like bronze in the no-gi division of that. And I was like, oh, wow, like this thing's quite cool. Like, you know, competing's cool. Like I've had this whole really cool experience, like road trip up to Blenheim, and you know, it was a cool experience. And then from there, I was just like, okay, cool. Like, well, I'm just gonna keep doing this. I don't think it was. I certainly wouldn't say it's because I enjoyed it, but like I understood, and my coaches helped me to understand that it was like part of the process of like, hey, if you're doing this thing, you may as well, because you're gonna discover like this whole little thing about yourself. And so yeah, I've been competing pretty much for as long as I've been training.
That's an interesting point, though. I didn't enjoy it, but I did it for the nugget that might come. You know, I feel like that's a perspective that, like, not a perspective, but like a mindset that people like are very unlikely to adopt.
Yeah, man.
You know what I mean?
Well, it's hard, bro. It's hard. It takes you way out of your comfort zone. And I think the best way I heard it described was like, there's two types of fun, right? There's type 1 fun and there's type 2 fun. Like type 1 fun's like a roller coaster or like a movie. It's fun while you do it, and then you just forget about it, you know? Type 2 fun is like when you go on a hike or compete, and it fucking sucks while you do it. And then afterwards you look back at it with a lot of fondness and for all of the wealth of stuff that's in there. So,
and actually type 1 fun, and that's in that model, it's fun while you do it, but as soon as you're done, you crave more. Yeah. It's not satisfying in any way.
It's just the dopamine hit.
Yeah. Like it's essentially, you know, it's essentially the dopamine, right? But when something is fulfilling, it sort of like satiates you for a while. Yeah. And like you might get the itch after that eventually to like, you know, because obviously progress and all that stuff. But yeah, that you're right. There is some sense of like fulfillment. Like I wouldn't even call it fun. It's more like fulfillment. It's like,
yeah, definitely.
There's a satisfying thing of like, yep, I did that. And like, I can look back at it and like enjoy the sacrifice, you know, in a sense.
Yeah, for sure. I think that sacrifice thing is a big word for it, eh? Because you do, like, if you want to compete properly, you do have to make some pretty big sacrifices, eh? It's not just like, okay, well, I'm spending a lot of time at the gym or I'm cutting weight. But like, you also have to, you got to take some of those luxuries away from yourself for a little bit, because, well, I know I can only speak from my own experience, but like the closer I get to the lead up for a big comp, the more anxious I get as well. And like when I get anxious, I take away a lot of those kind of like the buffers, you know, like, so I'm like, oh, like I shouldn't have that coffee today because like I know caffeine puts me on edge. I'm not going to train as well. So like, or like, oh, I'm not going to watch that TV show, or I'm not going to do that thing I like or that. And yeah, it costs you a lot. But I think if you don't do those things, you're not doing yourself justice to the experience. Yeah.
Now how, like, because, okay, so I'll tell you my perspective on it, right? So when I started, for me, it was a thing of like, I've kind of told the story, but like very insecure, got bullied as a kid, blah, blah, right? Classic story. And I was like, I don't want to feel this anymore. Like if I'm walking through the city at night, I don't want to feel like I need my dad with me to feel like I'm safe, you know? And so I was like, fuck it. Like I'm going to do this thing. It sucks. I even the thought of it sucks. Like literally going to training was anxiety provoking like every day for like the first year and a bit. And I was just like, nah, like I'm going to do it. Right. And I mean, I say every day, every time I went, but at the start, I probably went like twice a week, right? Like, so it's interesting that you were going balls to the wall from the start. Because I was like, for me, like even that was like a big sacrifice. It was like I was conquering this fear, you know? And so I would go in and I'd be looking at all these guys with like their jiu-jitsu Instagrams at Blue Belt and like super into it every day of the week. They're there, and I'm just like, bro, like get a life, you know? Like I'm just here to like get over my fear, but you guys fucking get a life, you know? And then like slowly as time went on and as I got better and better and better and like that fear went away, I actually started enjoying the like process. Nice. And I became that guy that's always there. There's no life, you know what I mean? So, but it's funny because it took me getting better to appreciate, well, one, I guess part of it was like, now it drives the ego as well, you know, because you're good at something, so you want to keep engaging in something where you're good. Like, let's be honest, right?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So that's probably part of it. But the other part of it is like, you know, I actually started enjoying the game of the process of learning, you know, instead of just like getting scared about getting fucked up every day. So it's interesting that you would just start from the get and be like, nah, I'm doing it like every day, fucking like circuit training, all the stuff, hard?
Fuck, I think I had to, bro, for two reasons. Like, I've got a very addictive personality. Like, I've never really had a formal diagnosis of it, but I think I've probably got ADHD in some form. So for me, it's like 100 or 0. And like during uni and stuff, I'd really kind of taken that to the extreme when it came to like drinking and partying and stuff. So when I got back to Christchurch and I started teaching, like I'd run my body into the ground. Like,
did you say you studied in Dunedin?
Yeah.
So
So
classic.
the big study.
Yeah.
But that's why I was like 130 kegs, man. It was not like a healthy 130 kegs. And like my rig was feeling it like really badly. Just wasn't it fucking definitely one of the least happy times of my life. And I was like, well, I'm going to use teaching to travel every break and run away from myself, like escapism stuff. And I remember going to South Korea to see some friends who I'd met traveling previously. I was like, oh, you know, like living the backpacker life. And I did yoga for the first time. And we were like on an island, like in the middle of the country, which sounds weird, but like there's this massive river that flows through South Korea, and there's like a tourist island, and we were like, hey, we're going to go down there for the day. And we were there, and it was stinking hot. We were like, okay, let's just do some yoga. Backpacker things. That's what you do, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, cool. And I went into baby pose, like just like child's pose or whatever it's called. And my back seized up. And I couldn't move for like 2 minutes. And I was like, holy shit, like I've actually, like maybe I'm paralyzed. Like, I don't know what's happened here, but my body was like so fucked up from everything I put it through that I couldn't even do that. And they thought the people I was with thought I was joking. So they were just like cracking up laughing. And I was like, holy shit, like I'm in a foreign country. Like I've got no like insurance or anything here. Like these people don't even think I'm serious. Like
they thought you're just really good at yoga. Like, bro, he's holding that pose for ages.
So that was a real big like wake up call for me. And then I came back and I was like, okay, you need to like reverse a lot of the damage you've done somehow. So fortunately, I figured out that like jiu-jitsu would be a way for me to do that. And yeah, I just had like, it was like right time, right place kind of thing. Like I walked into the gym in Christchurch and there were a bunch of really caring, like awesome senior belts and coaches who really just kind of like, they helped me through like the whole process of being there every day and showing me how it could be done. And I was like, oh, okay, like not even consciously aware that they were doing it. But I look back at it now and I'm like, holy shit, like I was so lucky to have that experience, because I've seen a lot of guys who do that. They're like, I'm going to train every day and whatever. And then the injuries rack up or like the motivation dips. But I guess for me, it was just a case of like, you have to do this or you're going to die. Like, right. So I was like probably, the least healthy I'd ever been at 21. And I was just lucky that I was able to like recognize it and then like kind of withdraw myself from drinking 4 times a week, like, you know, and we're talking like 30 beers a night, like, and like, so I hate that whole jiu-jitsu saved my life thing. I don't think jiu-jitsu saved my life, but it was like,
maybe if it wasn't jiu-jitsu, it'd be something else. But
well, I'd tried powerlifting, and that certainly wasn't saving my life. Like,
I mean, it feels like
like deadlifting 320 with no belt or wraps was not gonna save my life.
But but also like, you know, with powerlifting, it's kind of like there's an advantage to being big, and there's an advantage to, there's not necessarily a reason to be like, oh, I need to get super mobile and fast and cardio. And, you know, like there's like, it's a very specific type of activity, right?
Yeah. And so having done that, I think was probably purely, and I will credit like that kind of lifting for helping me to not get injured on the mats, because even though I was 130 kgs, like I pretty much like made my physical body bulletproof to the point where it's like, okay, cool, like I can eat arm bars and shit and like be okay. So I guess powerlifting's probably the best base for jiu-jitsu. But so I don't know, it's just I look back at that because like even just yesterday I was thinking back and I was like, man, it's been like over a decade of doing the sport, like it's pretty buzzy to think that you've been doing anything for like a decade.
Yeah, I'm closing in on that number now as well, and I'm like, that's fucking weird, bro. I remember walking in, like, you know what I mean? It feels like it just happened, where it's like I was the scrub, you know, and like rocking up. It's interesting though, because it seems like you found the right like environment at the right time. You know, it was like a right place, right time thing. Like you were saying, upper belts were like super welcoming and stuff. Yeah.
I was really lucky, man.
Yeah,
really
and it's funny because, like, you know, I just had Eric on, and he's one of the old school boys from our gym, and we were talking about like the old school mentality and how like we kind of like the early stages of the gym we started at, and it was like very much that like old school Brazilian, like just fucking get wrecked, and like no one's gonna like pretty much like no one's gonna pay attention to you until you fucking prove yourself. You know? Yeah. And in a weird way, I needed that. Like in some way, I'm kind of like, oh yeah, it's kind of like, you know, it's not how we should run the gym, guys. Like, you know, whatever. And like for you, probably you needed what you got. Yeah. But in a way, because I was afraid of the confrontation, I kind of needed that.
Yeah, man.
You know?
I definitely think, I mean, and that's that part of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, eh? Like, I think it's important that people get that experience because like, yeah, even though I had really nice and caring coaches, the part of the culture that I think was the same was that like it was hard nosed as fuck. Like, the part that I've tried to keep that stuck with me the most about that, I didn't have Brazilian coaches, but I do now. Pedro from Tukaha is my main coach, but he's like not that kind of way. Yeah, but it was this the mat enforcer culture was my favorite thing ever, bro. And like we had a couple dudes on the mat who were just like fucking Robocop in the gi, bro. And like if there were some dickheads in the gym who were like trying to make their bones and like work over some lower belts, you just see this like unspoken, like the gym would get real quiet. And like you just hear like the door lock. Yeah. Like, oh shit. The first time I didn't even realize it was happening. But this guy, real weird dude, bro, like thought he was like an MMA fighter and stuff. And he'd come in and just like fuck you up if you were a white or blue belt, like just victimize you. And I saw like a couple of the higher belts, like these older purple belts who are like dads, but like they've been training forever. Like
some of those guys are fucking tough, bro.
Yeah, bro. The tradie dads, like hands like cinder blocks. And I just saw like them look at each other. And this guy finished this roll with this young blue belt. And the kid was like near crying because this guy had like fucked him up so bad. And they all lined up, locked the door, and just fucked this dude up. And he was like trying to like crawl off the mats between rounds, and the next guy would like grab him and be like, nah, bro, like we're not finished yet. And I'd never seen anything like that. And this dude like never came back. Yeah. But it was like, oh shit, like these dudes are like kind of policing like a good vibe in the gym with like superior like jiu-jitsu. And I always thought that was fucking cool, but that old school, there's a lot of merit to that. There's some downsides, but I think it is sometimes necessary. It's sometimes what people need, eh?
Yeah, I mean, like this, like nowadays the modern approach is like, use your words, bro. Come on, man. You know, like it's like, yeah, you know, communication, guys. But at the same time, it's like, bro, some of these guys, it's not going to get through to them.
No.
Bro,
no ways.
I taught a whole fucking class in that no-gi time slot where it's a lot of new guys.
Right, yeah.
About how to let go of a guillotine so you don't get Van Vloed, because I kept seeing it. And then in the rolling, these two dudes, big motherfuckers, they both have a fucking guillotine grip. So they're like 50-50 guillotine. And one guy gets up on top, and I'm like, let go of the head. And I'm shouting at them, let go of the head, let go of the head. Doesn't happen. Yeah. And then they reverse. So now the other guy's on top, and the other guy's not letting go of the guillotine. And I'm like, let go of the head. And then I was just like, you know what? I'm fucking done. I just walked away. Like, bro, some guys just don't fucking listen.
You don't know their mentality, bro.
Yeah, bro. Those guys were seeing red. Yeah.
Not hearing it. All they can hear is just like,
to do, their heart rate.
Maybe some like death metal playing like.
So sometimes you just got to be physical, and like that's the only thing they'll understand.
Yeah, for sure, bro. And I think that part of the sport definitely needs to stay alive, because if you don't have that, then this just becomes Tai Chi, you know, or like the way a lot of modern karate's gone. You know, I started with karate as a kid, but we did like randori or sparring every session. Like, and I was like, what, like 11?
Karate used to be so fucking, I mean, even now there's certain like Kyokushin, there's certain like gyms that will fucking go, bro.
Yeah, and
that
I
looks
like
tough.
that. I like that karate combat's becoming popular again, and what it's doing. Are they that good compared to like MMA fighters? Not yet, but like I think it's cool that it's there.
Did you see that Olympic karate thing where the guy got knocked out, and the guy that knocked him out got disqualified for like too much force?
That's so lame, bro.
You know what I mean?
That's
and I
so
think
lame.
it was supposed to be like a low contact one or whatever, but it's just like, bro, if you're literally in the middle, like it wasn't after the bell, it wasn't in the fucking fight, you get hit, you get clipped because you moved when you zig when you should have zagged.
Yeah.
That's on you, bro.
Imagine if like in tennis you lost a point for serving too hard. That's the way I see it. You know,
guys, it can't be over 30 miles. Please watch your speed.
Yeah, and that's why I think like I mean the Olympics thing is a funny one. Like I'm actually really glad that jiu-jitsu's not an Olympic sport. I mean IBJJF is bad enough. Yeah, but like
Olympics is the biggest scam that's ever existed.
But it kills every martial art, man. It kills every martial art that's been in it, because like judo, if you look at the International Judo Foundation, like I've been really lucky to train with some old school judo guys, even ones that went to the Olympics, and
back when they could like grab the legs and stuff, right?
Yeah, like you can't grab below the belt, and there's like certain like collar sleeve grips and stuff that you're not allowed to do. And I was like, dude, this is like, it's literally watered the sport down. And I mean, I know people talk about like the watering down of jiu-jitsu and stuff like that, but I think that's the thing that we have to like push against. Like there's still got to be that, like you got to be a little bit tough, or like you'll grow into some toughness doing the sport the right way. Like I think there is certainly right and wrong ways to do it.
Yeah, and I think you can still breed that element without like all the negatives that came with that old school mentality, you know?
100%.
Like, because so me and Eric would like, because I know Eric likes to rant on the old school versus new school shit. So I just like ask him a bunch of questions like, what do you hate about the white belts? And then he's like, you know, and then a bunch of the white belts in our gym listened to it. And now they're all like not skipping rolls, and they're like, and I go, do you want to roll? And he goes, yep, you know, because we like talk shit about it, like everyone that skips rolls and denies the rolls and shit like that. And
that's good though. I think if you can channel those kinds of things to actually like motivate people, sometimes motivation has to come from fear, because you don't want to be that guy. That's cool. You know, like it's uncomfortable and you're not always going to want to do it, but just do it, you know? But then we also had, like yesterday I had a guy come to me and he's like, oh, sorry, bro. Like I'm going to sit out because I pulled my groin. I'm like, bro, absolutely. Yeah.
Like you don't have to explain that, but like there's a difference, you know, there's a huge difference.
Bro, and I was just saying this on Monday to some of my guys. I'm like, you know, the wall's going to hold themselves. The wall will hold itself up. You know, you don't need to sit up against it and prop it up. But there's a difference. And I'm going to ask, like I asked them if they're like, oh, I gotta sit down. I'm like, are you hurt or are you injured? Because if you're hurt, like somebody bonked your nose or like whatever, or maybe just jammed you up in a sub, that's not valid reason to sit out. But if you're injured, like you've got a fucked ass elbow, knee, whatever, like a legitimate injury, then be sensible here. Because I used to train where it was like, I'm doing everything like regardless, you know, like neck injuries. Like I blew out a rib as a white belt and just kept training through it. And then it got so bad that it separated from my spine. And then it's like 6 months of no training. You're like, oh, okay, that's kind of dumb. Probably shouldn't. And
sometimes there's a twinge or a weird tweak where you're like, I'm not sure if that's serious, or like when I cool down, it might be actually pretty fucking bad. And sometimes it's better to just like play on the side of, you know, like err on the side of caution. But at the same time, like bloody nose, fucking you fucking cut or whatever. Who cares? Just tape it up, go. You know, absolutely. So you had a match and you were talking about it on your pod. I want to hear what your experience was, and you know I'm curious about your experience. You had a match against Izaak Michell. Is that his name? Yeah. Which is a famous ex-B team guy.
Yeah.
Switched over to, I don't know where he switched now.
I think he's training at the Brazilian fighting academy, or it's like the Checkmat affiliate in Texas. Yeah.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
Yeah, he trains around a bit.
And he's a fucking monster, that guy. Like, you're looking at highlights, that guy cut like cardio doesn't stop, fucking wrestling,
awesome,
everything.
Yeah.
So how was that for you? Like, how did that feel?
Well, yeah, I'll preface it by saying, you know, that was ADCC trials last year in Sydney. So fuck, that was a cool event, man. It was a great experience. So, and a few of my mates and stuff have moved to Oz and they train over there. And one of my mates, he'd gone to trials when it was in Japan the season before. Like, yeah, it always runs in like 2-year cycles, I guess. So he'd done trials over there, and I watched him, and I was like, oh, I'd been thinking about going, and I was like, oh man, I really regret not having gone and doing it. So I was like, I'm not going to put it off anymore. Like, the window's small, so time to hit trials. Let's do it. And so I had like, I arrived there. I was like, okay, cool. You know, it's a fucking big event, man. Like, you need to get in with your passport. Like, there's a lot on the line at trials level. It pretty much doesn't get any bigger. And I was like, okay, man.
Yeah, there's like actual ADCC vets that will do trials again. Oh, like, it's not just people trying to qualify. Like, you know what I mean? It's people that have done that shit.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah. I mean, so essentially, like, the way it works is like only 2 people get invites per division. So like, if you're in like the Oceania region, there are some serious veterans who've done like upwards of 6 trials and still not ever won, you know? So yeah, there's dudes in there who are so legit, and I was like, okay, cool. Well, I mean, I'm fucking no one from NZ. And I had a guy, I was supposed to have a match before that, but this guy never showed. So essentially I had like a bye, and I was actually really annoyed at that, because I was like, I'm so anxious that I need to get like a match out. Like, I need to just like have a match against someone. So this guy didn't show, and I was like pretty pissed off. So just like channeled that into the warm up, and I saw like on the other side of the bracket, I was like, fuck, it's like Izaak. You know who he is, because I'd already seen him competing and things like that. And then, yeah, so we had our match, and fuck, like, easily until that stage, the most, like, I'd never seen anyone more technical no-gi. Like, his timing, and I think that's like the most awesome thing to see from him, because like he just pulls the trigger instantly when he sees an opening, and that was like a huge lesson.
So much experience, right? Like that's got to come from that, because he competes so fucking much.
Well, he's also spent a lot of time over at like Henzo's and stuff. But really cool dude. You know, super nice. He's always been super nice to me, and like even after the match and stuff, like super cool. Saw him in Vegas, super cool. So yeah, it's just it was really cool to have a match with him, and like actually not get done from the mount with a punch choke. Which I saw him do to his first opponent, and I was like, fuck, I just better not get done like that badly. But yeah, we had a pretty decent match. I made a mistake kind of late into the points period. Just after the start of points period, like the kind of tone of our role changed, where we'd kind of gone from like me attempting leg locks on him and getting close to bites and him defending, to points period coming on, and then essentially the tone and pace changing, where it was like, okay, now it's like no sacrifice of position. I was in the guard, trying to enter on the leg still.
What were you playing?
I came in on like kind of like K guard into the matrix to try and like pick up his knee line. The entry had worked earlier to get in on a toe hold, which like I got a pop on, but he like freed the knee line, and like no one's tapping to an ankle pop at ADCC level. So I was like, okay, well, I'll keep fishing for that and see if I can stay at least on the offensive cycle here and not give my back up. Because like for people who like don't really know, is when you get to that level of like leg lock technique, it's not about the guy escaping, it's about the guy countering. So like the deeper you go in on your offense, the more risk you expose of your back or like a counter.
Or if you're playing outside, they can re-enter your legs. So
yeah. So it becomes less about just raw defense, because and I see this with a lot of guys at the moment. They think they're like leg lockers, but it's like because people have no defense.
Yep.
But at that level, it's not just that the guy has good defense, but he's going to counter you into his own offense. So that's the big play. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to use this to try and enter a sweep and come up. I nearly did. He denied it, so I had to go back to my guard. And then I'm like, fuck, okay, I've got to go in on the leg here. And as I shot my hips up in the K, or like that matrix position where you like throw over, I shot my hips up. And he like pulls his knee line free in this like perfectly timed motion where he's no longer on his feet. My hip drops to the mat and both my knees touch the mat and he's on my back. He just like in stepping out and back, he'd caught my hip and then swung back through and then hit like the cleanest like back take. And I was like, oh fuck, okay, now it's over.
And I guess at that level as well, because you had like, it's probably worse the fact that you entered once and then he managed to get out.
Yeah.
Because now he knows exactly what you're trying to do or like what your game is. And so it's like, okay.
He's going to know the pattern.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. That's actually what happens when I try to enter like other coaches. I'm like, if I get it the first time, then it's like, there's a chance. But the second time I got to switch it up because otherwise there's like, they're going to read it.
You got to make it stick. Yeah. Man. You got to make it stick.
And guy like that, that's fuck, man. Like I just recently watched him do that 2-hour match. You know, bro,
with Kyle Chambers.
What the fuck was that?
I think it was actually 3 hours, dude.
Really?
I think it was like 3 hours 10. But
I was skipping through it, obviously, but like, fuck, man, that looked so grueling.
You couldn't do that if both people were wrestling. Like, I think that the reason it went that long is because Kyle was using his guard a lot. But if you want to see really like what he's capable of, is watch him versus Wagner Hocher at ADCC. They won match of the tournament for that.
Yeah, I remember that one.
That was unreal, bro. Like after that, I was just like, dude, like that was the maddest thing I've like ever watched. And just like I mean, I guess it's wrestling at that point. Like it's almost not like, I think there's maybe like a minute of BJJ in that fight, but that's not a disparaging thing at all. I think the physicality of having to do the ADCC style wrestling is just mad. It's mad. And to watch him do it's just cool as fuck.
What do you think about the ADCC style wrestling? Because I have a feeling that wrestling kind of figured it out. You know, they got stalling, warnings. They got push outs. They got like, there's all these things that encourage action and keep them in the middle and like, let's go. And like, okay, red, shot clock, like all this stuff, right? Whereas in jiu-jitsu, it's like you can kind of play the boundary and there's a lot of fucking around there.
Well, I think this is one of the reasons I like ADCC rules the most, is because they're doing the most to incentivize action right now. If you enter a sub on an edge, you get reset in that sub in the middle. If you try to wrestle out off the mats, the match keeps going. And the refs are becoming very, very, I don't want to say aggressive, but like, you know, they're policing that action call really hard. Like when I did the Vegas Open, like I took this, in my first match, I took the guy down in a single leg and I was like kind of in that headquarters-y top of half guard position. And it was literally 3 seconds before the ref was like, I need action from you on top. And I was like, bro, like I was fighting for my life just to get to this position. And I got 2 action calls in that same position and I was there for less than 30 seconds. So, like I think as jiu-jitsu guys, especially the ADCC guys, the guys prioritizing that are getting better at wrestling, you are seeing less of those boring hand fight matches and stuff like that. Like I mean, I was there for the last one in Vegas, and I don't think there were any matches, maybe other than the absolute final, that were like what I would say boring. You know, there was like action in all of them. Yeah. So I guess it's going that way, but yeah, I don't know. It's always a hard one, man. If there's a rule set, there's going to be guys who find a way to game it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But yeah, I don't know. Like I feel like I don't know if I like the not stopping the action out of bounds because someone's going to crack their skull on cement, you know?
Yeah.
And I understand what they're doing with it.
Yeah.
But I just feel like there should be some sort of like point score for push-outs or something where like you're actually incentivized to like get back to center.
I remember seeing there was a competition a while back that had a push-out rule. But yeah, like I mean,
there's problems with that too, right? I'm sure, but
yeah. I remember watching the one match I remember from that rule set was Gatekeeping versus DJ Jackson. And I think DJ Jackson won on push-outs alone.
Right.
And it was like, and it just kind of made it feel like a non-event. But yeah, I suppose, man, when you get to rules like that, it's they're always going to change. You're going to put something in, and dudes are going to find a way to
that's true.
game it,
that's very true. Yeah.
But it kind of makes, it also adds the intrigue aspect, I guess, because it's like, oh, okay, like, how do I figure out how to game that now? Game that. But I don't know. I'm not a big like game the rules kind of guy. Like I'd rather. I know this sounds like so let me bang, bro, but like I've lost a lot of matches by sub where I could have easily just gone back into my shell and just be like, okay, just don't get submitted.
Yeah.
Like I'd rather take the risk and get submitted than lose on 2 points.
Yeah.
Because then if you lose on points, you're always kind of like, oh, what if like I just push a little bit harder or whatever. So like, I don't know. If I get subbed in a match, I'm like, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, all good. There's something final, you know.
Yeah.
So,
at least he beat me. Yeah.
So I'm not necessarily, I'm probably not the perfect person to talk to when it comes to like manipulating points and things like that.
No, I'm the same, man. I don't even think it's I think it's a gym thing. Like it's not even a conscious thing for me. Because
yeah,
like I don't compete a lot. I'm not I wouldn't consider myself a competitor. I've done some comps.
Yeah, you've competed enough to know.
I've done some comps. I had like a big stretch of chronic injury, which I'd rather just be able to keep training as opposed to like go hard 100%. And then fucking have to like pull back again, you know?
Yeah.
But so I've done some comps and I was just randomly looking at my smooth comp and I was like, it's all subs. I either win by sub or lose by sub. There's no decisions like in my whole record, you know? So yeah, pretty much like I think it's just like in the gym, we prioritize that, you know?
Yeah, I think it certainly starts at a gym culture level, you know, because like if you've got a coach and you've got a philosophy in the gym where guys are like are going for it all the time, I certainly think you're going to see less people who are like willing to. Because what you do in the training room is what you're going to do in competition. So if you're fighting for points consciously in the gym and like you just develop a positional style, that's well and fine. And it might win you an IBJJF World Championship, but like you're not going to be the most exciting grappler to watch, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's why everyone loves to watch like a guy like Gary Toner or like the Jeff Glovers or the Bill Coopers and stuff because they just go for it. You know? Like,
and like, yeah, exactly. And like, I'm never going to be a pro athlete. Like, you know, I've probably, you know, I've missed the mark. Realistically speaking, I'm not winning world champs. I'm not going to fucking dedicate the next 10 years to juicing and to training 8 hours a day. Like it's not going to happen. You know, I know like what I'm willing to dedicate to the sport, you know, and it's not going to be 6-hour days. Like I just can't, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
And so because of that, like, why do I care? Like if I win 2 extra matches that I could, you know what I mean? Like I'd rather do it for the highlight reel. You know, just do it for some cool clips, you know?
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, like, fuck, who said, it's do it for the gold or do it for the ground. That's good. That's good. Yeah, it made me think about it because I mean, you certainly go into a comp like wanting to win.
Oh yeah.
But like only one person can do that. So it's like, I'd rather lose in an exciting way than like not really have tried or like I don't know. There's a whole thing to it.
I think the points guys would say that this is a cop out.
Yeah,
because in a way we're like protecting our own ego because we're saying like if I'm not good enough to do whatever it takes to win, I'm just gonna say I couldn't tap him, he couldn't tap me. It is what it is, you know.
As a person who's had to do that at like what you could argue is the highest level of the sport, I don't feel as rewarded winning on 2 points as I do as having subbed the guy. I'll say that. And I've competed in every fucking rule set there is. I mean, that still exists, but like I've done IBJJF, I've done ADCC, I've done sub only, and I've won in all of those things under their own criteria. And like I can tell you without a doubt, like I'd way rather sub a dude than win on 2 points.
Actually, I'm realizing I've told a lie here live on the podcast. It's not on Smooth Comp, so you can't actually check this. But my very first match ever, white belt, I jumped close guard and I attacked the guy's collar with no idea of what I'm doing. And the guy couldn't get out, and he couldn't. Yeah, you know, he couldn't get out, so the ref
was he like still carrying you?
No. Like we went down, okay. And I was just like left, right. The whole match, my forearms were fucked. Yeah, and the ref was like, "Well, he was active, advantage," and I won.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Wow, I won my first match." Yeah. That was terrible.
But look, it was still on the merit of you doing offense.
Nah. Like that was just my coach be like, "Keep grabbing the collar." I was like, "Okay."
I mean, you were trying, you know.
Yeah, it was dog shit, but it was fine.
Yeah, fair enough. But it's a funny one, man. Like, I think the one, like, you got to make people care somehow. I think, like, you know, there's a lot of that conversation going on in jiu-jitsu at the moment. It's like, okay, well, how do we make jiu-jitsu go mainstream? Or like, how do we get it to like break through as like a cool thing that a lot of people want? And you got to make people care. And you're not going to do that by winning ADCC by only people having scored negative points because you did nothing. Which is actually how like Yuri Samoisha's got to the super fight. Like, he literally he won because everybody else got negatives.
Right.
Like, no one's going to care about that.
You know what? You know how you can make people care though? Yeah. If you start playing the heel. If you start talking mad shit, like, no one can do anything, you guys all suck, and then just go in like negative. Well,
yeah, I mean, exactly. You've got to find a way to make people care.
Yeah.
And that's either through like making sure that they want to see you lose, or like by being exciting as fuck. And you got to find an angle. Yeah, you have to.
And unless you want to go for the heel strategy, you know, you better start going for the sub.
It's got to be authentic, eh? Like, I think you see some guys try to talk shit, and it's like, it's not really you.
There's also the problem of like in the UFC, for example, right? Yeah. Like, people, maybe it's them, but they're just not Conor McGregor. Like, that motherfucker is hilarious. Shit, like, he could be a comedian, 100%. You know what I mean? Yeah. And
same
so,
with like a Chael Sonnen.
Right. Like, these motherfuckers like could literally do that even if they weren't fighting. Yeah,
exactly.
You know?
It's got to have that layer of like, it is you doing that, like, even if it's you turned up to like 100. But I don't know, it's one of the big reasons why I don't really like to talk shit or things like that, because it's just like, well, firstly, in South Africa we grew up in a culture where if you talk shit and stuff, it's just like, okay, well, we'll go outside and handle it. But at the same time, it's just also like, it's really tiring to try and do that. It's really tiring to try and have to put that like persona out there, especially if it's not something that comes naturally. But
that's actually a funny point. I'm from Romania, so I went back at 18, having not been there for a few, like, you know, since I think the last time I went before that was I was 12.
Right.
And like, you know, I've pretty much all my Romanian-ness is from like my parents, and like, because I don't really hang out with Romanians over here. Yeah. And I went back and I reconnected with like old like primary school friends and shit. We went out partying and shit. Yeah, it was so funny. It was like I knew them the whole time, you know. But there was a lot of like mismatch in culture.
Yes.
Because I remember saying like, you know, doing like one of those like your mom type jokes, you know,
right.
like oh, your mom's heavy or whatever the fuck it was. What? And everyone kind of stopped, and the guy goes, so look, like, that's all good because like you're new, but like don't do that again, because we will have to fight. And I'm like, oh shit, I forgot. No, but like genuinely, I didn't, because in Kiwi culture, it's like, dude, it's hilarious. Like, what's better than your mum joke?
I know,
like,
like you certainly do. I've seen that as well, like traveling to the States or whatever. Like the New Zealand sense of humor is much more like open, and like there's not much that's sacred. Yeah. But like, man, like if you make like a your mum joke, like it's hands, like it's like go outside now.
Yeah.
But no, it's I think that's going back to like what we were talking about with like the hard-nosedness of BJJ, I think that that's one of the cool things about it is like you see guys who talk shit online, but eventually you got to back it up, eh? Like you can't just be a Dylan Dennis, eh?
Yeah. I struggle with that guy because he was really fucking good.
Bro, I remember watching him at like brown belt and stuff, like at Copa Podios and stuff, and he was like amazing.
That's what I'm like. He actually has skills.
Yeah.
And when people were like, "Oh, this guy," I mean,
now he's getting choked out by bouncers.
Sure, yeah. I mean, he could have been. You don't know how drunk he was. He could have been blackout. You know,
he was pretty faded, probably.
But could have been on ketamine. Who knows?
Bro, that would be fucking nil, eh? Imagine you just like K-hold at a pub, and like the bouncer just like ruins your day.
Yeah, and then it's online, and like, oh, he's got no ground game anymore. It's like, bro, I wasn't even there.
Exactly. Yeah. Was I? Like, did that happen?
Yeah. But like, so that's the thing.
Yeah.
And then everyone's like, it's this he's riding Connor's nutsack, like it's not going to work out for him. But he's got like 4 million followers, bro.
Yeah.
And it kind of worked out for him, like in a way, So it's like how like
you can. I mean, the clout chase. I mean, has definitely worked out for him. And I mean, he's definitely an influence. But
what kind of influence is the question? But
yeah, I suppose so. And I mean, we're not arbiters of people's morality and stuff, but like even in Bellator and stuff like that, it was like you've got a platform where you can talk shit and then like go and show something, and then you don't. I feel like coming back to that kind of, I guess, cultural thing that we come from is it's like if you're gonna talk it, you got to walk it a bit,
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, fuck, you got to get your bag somehow, eh? Like, fuck it.
Yeah, like see, like that's what I mean. Like I can't really hate him for that aspect of it.
Yeah,
I can not like him as a person, and that's cool.
Yeah.
My biggest thing is Marcelo kicks you out. I'm on Marcelo's side. Yeah, no matter what happened, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah. I think that's the big one. Is like Marcelo, like the notoriously nicest guy. Notoriously nicest. That's like an oxymoron.
Yeah. But it makes sense somehow.
Yeah. Like if he says nah, you're cut, then that's like that black mark, eh? Like you're an untouchable after that.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, shit.
Bro, that's
a difficult one.
Marcelo's the one guy where I wanna just see, like I want to like pump him full of stem cells and roids and just see him do how he does now.
Oh, bro.
Because I feel like his game still holds up, bro. Man.
His game was like the thing, dude. Like I think he really was like the blueprint for like how you could do it. But fuck, he's got like bowel cancer or something.
Yeah, I saw he just got back to training, right?
That's good.
Yeah,
that's good.
I'm not sure like if he's in remission or.
Yeah, that's like I think that was a huge blow for the community. Like when someone that's
so
big,
unfair.
Like yeah, and I mean cancer's just a fucker as well, bro. But yeah, like. Man, I look back at some of his matches and it's just like the back take game, the X guard, like all of those things, even leg locks. Like he had leg locks. And
against Ricardo or whatever the hell his name is. Yeah. He was like, fuck this guy.
yeah. Getting slammed, eh? Then like just the big fuck you heel. But yeah, man, like so cool, eh?
Yeah, I feel like I'm not like that knowledgeable in the like in everyone's matches and shit back then. But was he like the one guy that was playing inside? Like playing like straight Ashi and fucking X guard and shit? I feel like that was all. Like he's sort of popular. I mean, obviously he didn't invent it or whatever. I'm sure it was around. And I know I've seen judo fucking textbooks where someone was doing a straight ashi.
Yeah.
But like, it seems like on the competitive scene, he developed that meta in a sense.
I'm trying to think if there was anybody else, but like, I think one of the reasons that he popularized that position was because he was playing a lot of single leg X and a lot of X guard, and like naturally you find your way into those positions from that kind of work. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I would say he's probably one of the guys who was pioneering those positions for sure. Yeah. But then we had guys like Dean Lister, Eddie Cummings, and those guys who I think were probably like, I mean, that arguably not really as contemporaries, but they were the ones kind of bringing it into the modern era, if you want to
they
call
took
it
what
that.
Marcelo was doing and sort of expanded upon it.
But yeah, like I mean, that stuff's been around for like you said, forever. I mean, I always like every now and then I post a picture from this like Greek frieze of a centaur heel hooking a dude.
Yeah.
I love that, and it's like, bro, this literally these things have been around since like before we even had written history, man. So
yeah, dude, I
guys
remember
who say they're inventing moves. I'm like, bro, let's get the fuck out of here.
I remember seeing. I mean, I read this on Reddit, so it could easily be fucking horse shit.
Sounds reliable.
Yeah. But there was some manuscript about some grappling match that occurred in like Greece, ancient Greece or something, and it details like basically one guy's on his back and he's starting to put in a rear naked choke.
Right.
And the guy that's getting choked breaks. So I'm assuming he had his feet crossed, and he like
the old ankle
cross, like leg break, and apparently like the joint came out of the socket and all this shit. And the lifeless corpse, and I assume he was probably passed out. Lifeless corpse, it says in the manuscript, was declared the victor. And I'm just like, I don't understand what the fuck actually happened, but this sounds very jujitsu.
Yeah, 1 on points, even though he got slept. Eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's buzzy, man. I mean, I think that that's the coolest part about like jiu-jitsu is because like not every country has access to wrestling like the US or whatever.
I was actually gonna bring this up. Like, do you think, because in your last like in that competition you ran, I was at
the Future Cup.
Yeah, that was like coaching, calling time for Joel.
Yeah.
You were saying that like you genuinely believe that the New Zealand scene like has the potential to be on the world stage, you know?
100%, man. Yeah.
Now my thing with that is the fact that we have no grappling culture, right? And like you go to like fucking Kazakhstan, all these places, they got crazy wrestling, judo, Americans, the wrestling, folk style, freestyle.
Yeah.
What do you think, like, how do we make up for that deficit?
Man, I mean, there's a lot to unpack in that, isn't there? I mean, in the same way that, I mean, New Zealand, Australia, like, we're not very dissimilar other than population size. Australia doesn't have a massive wrestling scene. The American wrestling scene, it's not the fact that they're wrestling that makes them good, because like the guys who come into jiu-jitsu or like ADCC aren't guys who are doing well in wrestling, because the guys who are doing well in wrestling stay wrestling.
Yeah.
But you only have to be good enough to deny it. Like, and I think that that's the biggest crossover for like wrestling for jiu-jitsu. You don't have to be a world-class wrestler to wrestle well in jiu-jitsu. You just have to be able to be serviceable enough that you can stop it and take it to your game. So like, I don't think we have to go like, oh, New Zealand grapplers all have to suddenly go and like be amazing wrestlers. You don't have to do that to win at high levels. Like, I haven't had to do that. Like, yeah, cool. I've been very lucky to wrestle with some of our like most talented wrestlers in New Zealand. But like, I think it's more a case of like, if we can get people to come out of their comfort zones of their gym and cross train, if we can have more competitions and people putting it out there more often, I think that that's probably the way that we're going to get to the same level as where Australia's broken out in the last couple of years. Like, I mean, Lachlan Giles and those guys have arguably been doing it for so long now that calling it breaking out would be unfair. But, you know, in terms of like them going to things like ADCC World Champs and guys like Levi Jones-Leary winning like IBJJF Worlds and stuff, that's a more recent phenomenon. I don't see any reason why New Zealand can't get to that level if people collaborate. And that's kind of been the big push that I've been trying to do in the last at least half a decade. Like, for the time that I moved to Auckland in 2017, is just trying to like go, hey, like, do you guys want to come train? Like, and not getting a can't train with you kind of response, because of that tribalism stuff. And it's breaking down. It's surely breaking down. That's certainly one of those negative things about the old school mentality that's kind of fortunately dying. But cross training is super important, man. I think that that's the number one way in which like any country is going to break through, you know?
Yeah. My thoughts on that kind of question, because I was thinking about it for a while now. it feels like all the guys that are really successful in the Australian scene, you know, like Lachlan, for example, like real great example, Craig as well. But Craig's sort of now, you know, he's got so much influence from the American side too. But like, let's say Lachlan, they're all like guard players, or like they're really, really, really good at funneling down into their like bottom game and like entering legs or whatever, right? So I feel like they found that niche where it's like, okay, we don't need to even compete with the wrestling.
Yeah.
If we can just funnel away from it, you know?
True.
Like you saw, fuck man, I rewatched Lachlan's match with Cade.
Oh, yeah.
And like, you forget how long that match went for before the armbar.
Yeah.
And how like at any point, if Cade fucked up, that would have been game.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, Lachlan's guard, I think is, it's phenomenal. Like I haven't had the good fortune to train with him yet, but like, I mean, if you want to say that you're like a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt and you're not good off your back and you don't have a guard, you're not good. Because like the whole thing that separates BJJ from wrestling or judo or whatever is the fact that you can be on your back, not necessarily right on your back, but like your side or whatever, and have a guard that no one can pass. That's what a high level BJJ practitioner is, or jiu-jitsu, whatever, American jiu-jitsu, whatever we want to call it, right? Because guys like Keenan were the same, you know, you just impossible to pass. You know, guys like Ari Tabak, Lucas Kennard, Levi Jones-Leary, those dudes, you watch them and you're like, oh my God, like their guard is actually at like wizardry level, like scary to watch, man.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I mean, fuck.
That's why I hate being a heavyweight because of it.
Yeah.
Because everyone goes like, oh, well, heavyweights don't have a good guard. I'm like, I'm trying, bro.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I can't move like a 77 kg guy, but like, I'm trying to have a good guard. Please just like appreciate my jiu-jitsu. But yeah, those guys are on a different level of guard work.
No, it's actually hilarious you say that, because like early, I don't know, maybe mid purple belt, I was just like, bro, top game. That's where it's at. Fuck the bottom. I don't want to get punched in the face if shit goes down.
Yeah,
I'm going to smash this motherfucker. Body lock. You're not moving.
Hell yeah.
You know? And like I played basically a top heavyweight game at my fucking weight class.
Nice.
It's fucking dumb in a sense, but I don't care. I'm just going to like,
it's good to
I'm just going to make you not breathe until you give me something. And then I got my brown and I'm like, fuck. I can't, oh shit. Oh, no. Like I can't be a black belt and not have a guard. And I'm like, oh, fuck. So now I'm like scrambling, like every leg lock entry. I'm like, like, I'm not even like, I'll literally let people pass just so I can enter. Like, I'm just like, I don't give a fuck. Like, let me build this game because I'm terrified that I'm going to get like in the next half a decade, I'll get my black belt and I'll be dog shit on the back. And I'm like, nah.
Man, no gi aside, like I think one of, if not my favorite part of jiu-jitsu, it's not even the submission anymore. Like it's like the having like little off balances and these little conversations from the guard where you keep a person so like unsteady on their own legs that they can never enter anything. And like, that's the most fun I have in a training session. Like, I feel like you have to have those skills. Because if you can off balance the guy, you can do whatever you want to them. And I've found that extremely powerful. Like I noticed that when I trained with Marigali, like there was not a single moment where he was touching me that I was like,
in base.
I'm comfortable in this position, and that it changed the way I looked at the guard. Like even as a heavyweight, because I mean he is heavier than me and he's got an amazing guard, and I was like, okay, like I've got to do that. Like I can't neglect that skill.
Yeah, I mean, fuck. The more you like learn about it, like the more you're like, oh, it's just grappling. Like you know, like we've had a bunch of judo guys come through and girls, and like some like Olympic level, but just like had a concussion and couldn't get in or whatever, you know. Yeah. And holy fuck, like. Yeah. Like you shouldn't be able to move me the way you're moving me. I know, like it's mad. And so we've started doing drills where it's like we're not even looking for anything. We're just like, okay, the goal is to move your opponent 2 steps back, 2 steps right, left or back or forward. That's the only game we're playing. Exactly. And then it's just like Kazushi, you know? Because
such an important skill, man.
Fuck, dude. Like they're so good at it as well. Like
That's kind of that like invisible thing that they talk about, eh? But yeah, it is all grappling, bro. Like, I mean, we're too far down the rabbit hole now where we can rebrand the whole thing. And in fact, there's a lot of financial incentive for people not to do that. But like, I don't even consider what I do jiu-jitsu anymore. Cool. I learned Brazilian jiu-jitsu from people. Yeah, I learned wrestling from people. I've learned judo from people. But like, I'm just like, I'm just a grappler. Like, I don't really. Yeah, you can't differentiate because the crossover is just so mad once you study it and you see the history of it and everything. But
I mean, I think you could argue that there's elements that were bred from the jiu-jitsu culture, and then there's elements
the guard,
that
absolutely,
the guard. But I mean, there was guards before jiu-jitsu. Like in judo and stuff, they had some stuff, you know, but there were like developments that came from that culture, you know, especially like the Dean Lister stuff. Like the leg lock game has gotten so much more expansive.
Yeah, the conversation's just extended.
Yeah, I recently saw a Reddit post. They were like, why are you guys so self-depreciating? Like, you know, like I'm just a white belt, but like I see all these higher belts talk about how bad they are. And I'm like, bro, one look at sub-meta and I'm like, I'm never learning all this shit. Like there's so much on here, bro. Like how the fuck am I supposed to know all this?
Well, I mean, in philosophy, they talk about like the curse of knowledge, right? And it's just like the higher you get, or like the more you know about something, like the less you feel like you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a pretty common phenomenon, but like, yeah, I think that can either be super discouraging or super encouraging, and I always try to err on that side of encouraging, because like there's nothing more demoralizing than like going into a room where everyone's better than you and fucks you up with a whole bunch of shit that you aren't good at, but you recognize, and then you leave and you're like, oh fuck, man. But at the same time, I'm like, holy shit, that was so fucking cool.
Yeah. Well, especially once you've been training a long time, it's hard to. It's like I explain this to the guys that are struggling, like the white belts and stuff. I'm just like, yo, like I know it's cliche, but kind of like enjoy it now, because like I struggle to get what you're getting now. I literally have to like pick my roles so specifically, and like half the time like all those guys are injured, and I'm like, oh man, I have to like, all right, I guess I'll just escape side control today, you know, because it's like no one can give you that work
for that tiny like inch or 1% of like gain, you know. It's like lifting, I guess. It's like, you know, in your first 2 years of lifting you make like all this progress. It's the same with jiu-jitsu, and then by the time you're getting to this end, it's like you're looking for any little fraction of like a look, like literally like an inch difference in something to go like, oh, I appreciate that. Like that's something.
Yeah, and it's also like, you know, like if like, let's say, I don't know, my A game body lock, like how many guys are going to give me reactions I haven't seen, or that I actually have to think about like, okay, how do I react back? And like, that's going to be where my growth is.
Yes.
But like the most of the room won't give me anything that I, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, okay.
The worst one, and you'll know when you get there, is when you've seen every reaction to a position. That's actually the worst, because you're like, there's a level of confidence in it, don't get me wrong, but like at the same time you're like, oh, like fuck, like now what?
But that's what I mean, is like, I'm sure there are reactions that you haven't seen, but they're so hard to find. You like you have to go out of the way.
You know who'll give you that is a white belt. A day one white belt, bro. The day one white belt will do some shit that you have just like no idea what's going to happen.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, that was always my favorite. Like, I still remember as a blue belt, I was so relieved to get my blue belt, and I was like, cool, I don't have to roll with white belts anymore. And then I was like, what do you like, bro? That's half the gym. Like, what are you gonna do? And then I was like, if you're not good against that day one white belt, you don't actually have those self-defense skills that people claim that jiu-jitsu gives you. Because that's the kind of person you're gonna have to fight. But yeah, I still love training with a white belt today. Like, obviously, there's no point going in and just smashing them, but like, I'll be like, that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen the human body do, and I'm all for it.
Yeah. Like, dude, maybe don't turn your whole body the opposite way your face is turning. You know, like maybe don't do that.
Yeah, don't put yourself in a stone cold stunner, bro. Like,
If you value vertebrae, you know, maybe.
Oh man,
yeah. So how do you like? I have this thing now where I'm kind of like. So kind of trying to balance that old school versus new school kind of approach, right? And it's like, okay, brand new white belt, comes in, and it's like, obviously, if I fuck them up, that's one, it's sad, and two, I don't get anything out of it.
Yeah.
Two, three, I'm just perpetuating that cycle of like, let's just, you either sink or you swim.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, I feel like, and this could be just my internal perception. I feel like sometimes they walk away thinking, oh yeah, like I'm pretty mean, like, I got this shit. And then they go with some scrub, and they like, now it's two horns like clashing. And they're like, oh, did I get worse? Like what happened? And I don't know how to deal with that. Like, do I just fucking show them what's up? And then, like I'm still struggling with it. I have no idea how to approach it.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, bro. I don't know if I have a straight answer, but like, I think about that from like a teaching perspective is like, when you're the coach or you're the teacher, you've got to be everything to everyone in the gym. So you have to get, even aside from jiu-jitsu, you have to get really good at kind of detecting what reason a person's come into the gym for. And that's something that like I've had to learn a lot in the last couple of years specifically, is because you'll get that day one noob come in through the door, and like maybe they don't roll the first session, but like the first time they get rolling, you're like, okay, how do I show them what jiu-jitsu is, and how do I show them in a way that isn't like deceitful, like I'm not hiding anything from them. So like this has always been an issue for me, especially as like a heavyweight guy. It's like, how do you roll with someone lighter? How do you roll with a woman? How do you roll with the brand new person? So what I'll do firstly with the new person is play guard, because I want to show them the power of like, hey, I'm on my back in a place where this would be really bad, and I'm still going to disarm you completely with technique. And I'll just like, the person who comes in, that they're like shaking, they're so physical. Yeah. So I feel like you can't match a white belt's physicality. Like you can't go like, oh, they're rolling at 100% physicality, I'm going to, because that's probably going to turn them off.
Yeah.
So it's like all technique, and then like maybe hit them with like a good old triangle or like a rear naked choke, like the two like most signature jiu-jitsu things, I guess. And just kind of play with them the whole time. And I really do mean play, like in the way that you wouldn't take your guard into like a competition, but like, use it to fully express to them what jiu-jitsu is, so that they can go, oh, okay, like, wow, he did all these things. I might not know what they were right now, but I want to learn those. So I try to do that. Like, I won't wrestle with a brand new person. Like, there's no point like collar tying a dude unconscious when they're like brand new. But,
blast double across the mat. Yeah.
But we have had guys come into gyms over the years who you can tell that they're not there to learn jiu-jitsu. They're there to like prove that, their street fight record is legit. And those guys, it's like, we're signing off on this one. Like, make sure you sign that waiver, bro. And then, and then shit goes down. But I would say the general person who like we want to get into jiu-jitsu, who's like maybe probably quite scared walking into the gym, there's no reason to like make them feel like, holy shit, like that was so fucking scary. I was like on the edge of losing my life at that whole roll. Like, so it's a fine line to have to walk, man. Yeah, because
I find that like the coach in me wants to like funnel them to the position that we were working in that class, let them try it, let them hit it, like the coach in me is like, yeah, man, like if you get it in a live roll and I'm giving you some level of like realistic reactions and you're getting there, like you're going to feel like, oh, cool, I'm learning something. But then like, it's like, oh, cool, that was easy, And then I'm like, oh, okay, wait a minute, I think I gave you the wrong impression,
I'll do that.
So I definitely think that there's like
there's a lot of merit to that, man. There's a lot of merit to doing the way you're doing it. But I would do that with students who like, they already kind of know what's up. Right. Like the day one person, they're not really even going to be remembering like that technique the moment they leave. So you're definitely doing it the right way. Like if you're doing it that way, for sure. But I don't know. I'm a bit of a dick like when I roll, because like I'll do the same as you. Like if we've been doing a back attack and they get close to that position, I'm like, okay, I'll give you the looks, and if you can work it, that's all good. But then sometimes like I'm just gonna stand on your chest and like make sure you can't get up. Like if you let me pass your guard, I'm gonna be like sweating in your ear and in your mouth like on purpose to like piss you off and like see how you react.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That's just like, yeah, I think as a coach, you have to be able to look at each of those scenarios and go like, what does this person need from me like right now in this role? Or, and that, yeah, that's the, there's a whole nother level to the art once you start teaching it, eh?
Yeah, no, it's good. The reason I say this is like, I started noticing a phenomenon where guys will get their blue belt and then they go, holy shit, you've improved so much. And I'm like, nah, dude.
Giving you resistance, bro.
Nah. Like, you know, you got your blue belt, so now I'm like making sure you're wearing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Right? I love that one. Yeah. It's like the guy gets promoted, and I'm like, oh, I can give you 40% now. And he's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah. Now we're gonna roll hard. And he's like, oh shit.
And then it's like, oh, you wonder why blue belts quit, you know? So it's like maybe like unloading them a bit earlier would have helped, you know? And that's what, you know, I'm just kind of thinking, second guessing myself. But
maybe. Yeah, just maybe preparing for this.
Not just like, oh, cool, you got it yesterday, let's go, you know?
Yeah.
No, but it's an interesting, like, again, the cliche, the journey, but it's funny how like at each belt things do kind of click into place, and like over the time, you'll be like, oh man, this is the 4th time I'm learning this position, and now I get it, you know. And then like 3 years down the line, you're like, no, I didn't get it back then. Now I get it, and then that keeps happening. And
bro, I'm still doing that, like with one of my coaches at Tukaha, Jono. I've been with him and going to his classes since 2017, and he's still showing like similar sequences and things like that I look at, and then I'm like, I missed that. Oh, that's different. Or just understanding the reasoning. And yeah, that doesn't end if you're doing it right, eh? Because like, I don't know if it's certainly not tied to belts. It just happens that like the time on the mat
will usually correlate with X belt.
But that's the mad thing about like some of the guys in the States is like there are blue belts who have been training longer than like both of us combined. Yeah. And you're just like, how much experience do you have that you're just like, some of them just don't know how to express it. And I feel like that's the biggest pity, because I feel like, I mean, there's a natural loss of information in anything, but like there are some guys who are like legitimate phenoms who will never teach like what they know. And I feel like it's so important that the people that can teach study that so that someone can do it.
Well, I feel like part of it is that when you start super young, it becomes so intuitive, so ingrained that it's not really like a thought process.
You just,
And part of it is almost like, it's almost like that guy that comes in that's like talented off the bat. And like they don't fully appreciate what they have.
Nah.
Because they didn't have to work for it in the same way that someone that's like come in later or sucks to start with like had to work for it.
Yeah, it's not a like conscious thing anymore, eh?
So they don't even realize like what like the gold they got, you know? They don't even realize the And so I think for me, like I started and I wasn't like I was fucking 17, so that's a decent age to start.
Yeah.
But
that's pretty young.
Yeah. And like I had the benefit of being the weaker guy on the mat. Compared to the adults, I still haven't hit my like adult strength.
So you got to like rely on the technique a lot more than your physicality.
I wish I could say that, but white belt me was a fucking.
Well, yeah, you're still trying to put the physicality. Into
it was a bit of a hard nut to crack. But
true.
So like, I had that benefit, and like you know, there's other guys that start even in a worse position than I did, and they probably appreciate even more.
Yeah.
But I feel like we probably had to intellectualize it so much and really obsess over it and really like understand it intellectually to really
survive on the mat,
and get to a level where it's like we're even comparable to the guys that were talented. I mean, maybe you were talented because you'd say you were doing judo when you were young and shit like that.
Was not, bro. I so fucking sucked, man. But I think you're totally right. I think at the core of what you're talking about is taking ownership over a technique or whatever the case is. I say it to my students probably till they're sick of me saying it, but I'm still going to say it because if you're not conscious about like what you're doing, how can you translate that? Like, not everybody has to be a coach, like, for sure. I don't think everyone has to be a phenomenal coach, but like, if you're not even conscious of those, you're losing so much appreciation for what you're doing.
And I think, I don't know. I think jiu-jitsu actually has so much material. Like, it's actually such
limitless, man.
Yeah, but maybe it's just because I'm not good at wrestling, but it feels like wrestling is more intuitive than intellectual compared to jiu-jitsu. You know what I mean?
I think it can be, dude. I mean, I'm not a great wrestler, like, by any means. I'm serviceable at best, but like, I was really fortunate that my first nogi coach, Sam Belkin, is also a Commonwealth level wrestler, and the way that he exposed me to wrestling was actually quite intellectual. Yes, there's the physical element to it, but like, there's certainly a physical element to jiu-jitsu, right? Like, I think that's one of those misnomers about that whole marketing, like, oh, it's just technique. Like, nah, you have to use some physicality to finish an armbar. Like, you're going to get an arm pump finishing rear naked chokes. Yeah. But I think the difference is that wrestling just accepts that. Now, when I wrestle now, I don't shoot doubles and singles, man. Like, I don't want to get headlocked and sprawled on. And at the high level, you don't really want to take those risks. But the intellectual game that you're playing of like putting the person out of balance or like opening entries, I think it's still there. Maybe less appreciated. But I mean, if you talk to like an American, like Olympic or, Div 1, Div 2 level wrestler, they understand those also probably on an innate level, but the best ones know it on a known level, conscious level.
Yeah, and I think Joe, our head coach, agrees with that sentiment 100%. Like, I've talked to him about it too, and he's like, "Nah, bro, like, we just suck at wrestling, so we don't appreciate how deep it is."
Because like, we're still wrestling white belt, so we're just running at the wall.
Yeah. So if you're like a fucking Ben Askren, that guy had some crazy leg entanglements and like upside down fucking. I was watching some highlights. I was like, bro, this is pretty high level.
Yeah. If you look at folk style wrestling and things like that, you can't tell me that like some of those positions aren't harder to play than a worm guard. Because you look at like Merkles and you look at leg laces and stuff like that, man. And like, I've learned a lot from watching not just Greco, because like, I mean, Greco-Roman wrestling is like just full stand up, but there's a party apart, but it's nowhere near the same level as high school or folk style wrestling in the States, where like a lot of it is rides and stuff like that. And I've learned a lot, especially for like my nogi grappling game from watching that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But yeah, the reason why I bring that up, and like, yeah, again, I could be completely wrong in my sentiment, but it's like we're on a leg lock module now, right? And it's like, okay, leg locks. What are the high ones, high percentage ones, right? Straight ankle, aoki, inside, outside heel hook,
knee bar,
toe hold. Yeah. You could say there's some other niche ones, the steamer locks and all sorts of shit. Yeah. But let's say there's like 5 or 6 like main ones. Yeah. And then you got 6 or 7 maybe main positions you sort of can look for them in. Maybe a bit more, maybe a bit less. I don't know what the exact number is. I don't know, what do we say? 6 times 6, let's say 36 fucking variables.
Is it even 6 times 6, or is it 6 to the power of 6?
I'm just simplifying, right? That's what I'm saying, right? Yeah. Like that's exactly my point.
Complex it gets.
And so it's like, okay, fuck, I got to teach leg lock module.
Yeah.
How do I make sense of? I mean, I kind of understand the 36 and how they relate, but how do I fucking explain why you'd go for one over the other, and why would this, and like, when would you go for this, and is it preference, or is it actually, is there a hierarchy, and like, bro, it's so much to even like formulate a plan on how to teach it.
Bro, I've seen a guy who does flow charts for a DVD, and even that gets ridiculous, man. Just... So you end up looking like the dude against the board with like all the red lines and stuff. I stopped trying to do that, because also as a coach, what I realized is the more you give students, the less they're finding out for themselves. So I try to put them in like an inquiry state, which is like, it's kind of the teaching buzzword, like
ecological. Is that a different thing?
I fucking hate the ecological approach. Like, well, I think ecological approach is just like, how can I get this person from like white belt to a serviceable level as quickly as possible? however you do that, it doesn't really matter how you brand it or package it, right? So I'll go, okay, like, I'm going to show you like a straight foot lock, right? I want you to now ask a question, like, how do I get to a straight foot lock? And then take that for 6 months and do it, because that's what, you know, like that's what we were doing when we were coming up. Like no one knew leg locks like in New Zealand when we were coming up. So I was just lucky that I had coaches who encouraged me to look at every position and go like, well, I don't know the answer, but you should go and figure it out. Or like, you know, so we watched a lot of Eddie Cummings. He was like really kind of breaking out when I was like around a blue belt level. We were like, oh, okay, single leg X guard, and here's foot locks. And so that comes back to that like ownership of it, because they would just, you'd have to go and just try it and fail a lot to figure out what entries are right, what doesn't work, does this work? And the more you allow that process, the more you're going to have disparate training styles in the room, which then makes you better as well.
Yeah.
So I think that was, I try as much within still a structured program to do that for students. But yeah, like I have question time at the end of every class I teach. Like I'll circle students up and be like, hey, have you got any questions? And more, I'm realizing that answering their question and giving them the obvious answer, even though it's obvious for me, it took me 10 years to figure that out. So I don't like, sometimes I just say, what do you think? Or like, I don't know, even if I do know, because I want them to go and figure it out for themselves. Because if you, the more we give a student, the less they have to try.
Yeah. And the less they appreciate what they get. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's a whole thing, man. Oh, shit.
No, you're good.
Yeah, I think we can't take that joy of learning away from a student, because otherwise, it contributes to that. Like I want them to get as like, I like to think about this. If a student signs up within 6 weeks, I want them to be able to give me a look in training that I wasn't expecting. That's kind of the bar I set for myself as a coach. And I find it a lot of fun to try and get a person to that. And seeing them go through that kind of journey and figuring it out. And it's fun watching other people have fun doing jiu-jitsu. And I just try to find new ways and different ways to do that, whether it's different scenarios or different training styles. But yeah, that ecological approach a lot of people have been talking about recently.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's got its place, but it's not one or the other. It's not like, fucking, I never teach. I never teach. Like, fuck is that? Like, if people are only figuring things out for themselves, then you can only figure things out based on the reactions you're given. And so if it's a room full of white belts, you're going to get white belt solutions.
Exactly.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, and so sometimes
how would you build depth in their responses.
Right.
Like
that's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And they would say, well, it's all in how you task the game, like how you, propose the question, or you propose the out, because you an ecological approach, you would give them an outcome like, okay, I want you to always look for hip height, and you know, in this game we're looking like you're in the scramble, you want to bring your hips higher than theirs or whatever. So it's like whatever parameters you give
criteria would
be how you direct people towards the right answers. But I'm not convinced that that's like 100% gonna, you know what I mean, reliably give you what you want.
And it's certainly not going to revolutionize anything either. Like that's not new. Like it's been packaged as something.
It's essentially situational role, like situational training, which people have been doing.
I think that when you make criteria too strict, what happens is people start to go, oh well, like the conversation doesn't continue past that. Yeah. And so, like, let's say we make a game where it's like, I just want you to get to the front headlock. I'll just use that as an example. And the guy gets to the front headlock, and then you're done. Okay, cool. But what about the fact that he's going to sit out on you or fight your hands or like do something like that? And you have to contextualize it within the bigger picture, because I don't think that it's going to suddenly revolutionize the way that a person does it. It may make your entry sharper. It may make you understand that little phrase of the sentence, but it doesn't change the overall impact of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
positional and open sparring and stuff are still always going to be crucial. Always going to be crucial.
Yeah, I mean, the way I looked at it, not the ecological stuff, but more so like, okay, the question's like, okay, you have such a big amount of fucking content. How do you even package that? That's like, you know, like, and my thing was like, okay, well, if I can give them a level of like a vague understanding of some concept, and I hate the word concept because a lot of higher belts go, oh, if you just learn the concepts, you'll figure it. And I was like, nah, bro, like there's no chance. There's no fucking chance. Like concepts don't make sense without context.
Yeah, exactly.
So like my approach was kind of like, okay, there's inside position, outside position, right?
Yeah.
All these positions are going to fall in like pretty much one of the two categories.
Yeah.
And typically it's easier to transition from inside to inside and outside to outside. So that's why you would go for certain positions versus others. Now let's work on inside. And then they just go into the straight ashi or whatever the hell we were working that day. So it's like, I'm giving them a nugget of like, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense. I see why there's like fucking 36 positions or whatever the fuck. Separate scenarios. But it's, I'm not going into like, you know, all right, guys, here's the curriculum, like step by step. Like that's, it's way too much information.
Yeah, it's such a fine line, bro. Like it's such a fine line having to walk that whole teaching thing and pick it up in a way that everyone can do it.
Yeah, and I'm just sort of freeballing because I have no formal training, and like you know, even I mean, I'm sensing that you're saying that it's like not easy to teach, and you're someone that's studied teaching. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's actually a good question. So how like was there any transferable skills you found that were like instantly like?
Yeah, tons. I think, I mean, so like I have to preface it by saying like I've always been quite good at like explaining things to people and like getting people to figure stuff out. Other than maths, like I've always been terrible at maths, but other than that, like even without formal training, I could sit down with someone and explain it until they could understand it. And the main thing is like always just trying to get more efficient at being able to do that. And like you're going through that process now with teaching for yourself. But that never ends. Like it's not a thing that can end because there isn't a silver bullet, but every human is different. So I could teach 5 people a straight ankle lock, and they're all gonna learn it differently. Like they're all gonna read that book at a different speed. So
they'll pick up different details. They're
all gonna make different mistakes, and it's about going like, okay, cool. Well, I'm gonna teach front headlock. What are the 3 things that they're going to take away that everyone is going to know? So my success criteria in a class is quite low so that we can make all of this progress if it happens. But if it doesn't happen, okay, what are the 3 things that took away? If I can do that in a week, I'm like, okay, cool. I'm happy with that. But it's a constantly reflective process, man. Teaching's probably the hardest thing that there is to do, because you have to understand something well enough to convey that to somebody else. And I think that that's a very underappreciated thing. Maybe I'm biased, but yeah.
Yeah. And I think when you have to teach something, you realize, oh fuck, I don't know it as well as I thought I did.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and that's,
I love telling my students that as well. Hey guys, I'm not good at this position, but this is something we need to know. Let's figure it out and ask questions. Let's fail it, because like, I could be doing it wrong too. And I think as soon as you do that, you take so much pressure off of yourself, because I hate trying to have all the answers, because no human does. And if they say they do, they're fucking lying through their teeth. So you take so much pressure off of yourself when you go, hey guys, this is quite outside of my lane, but I'm noticing that everyone is doing that at the high level. So we should. Let's work on it. These are the things I've noticed. What have you noticed? And like, you can like workshop it with your students and discover things together. I don't think it always has to be this like, I'm the font of all knowledge. Like, I know that that's good for the brand, and like some gyms rely solely on that fact, but they're dying out because like now you've got nobody else that can do this for you. You know, like once you're not old enough, once you're too old, or your body's not like in a state where you're good enough to be able to demonstrate, what the fuck are you going to do? Yeah. You have to be able to disperse that knowledge so that, man, I've been so injured or like sick or whatever that I can't train, but I can go, hey, Johnny, do that back take we've been doing all week, and demonstrate for the class, and they'll just go, oh, okay, cool. That shouldn't be a hard thing to have to do, and it actually preserves you as a teacher as well.
Yeah. I guess that's more like, it's probably a problem that's harder for you to deal with because you're, I guess, the head coach, or like at your gym, right? Like you're like the.
No, yeah. I'm technically the head coach at Future Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
But like I don't really see it that way. Like, it sounds so corny, bro, but like I don't see myself as a coach or like a professor, but like I see all of them as my training partners, because like I want to be able to. It's selfish at heart, because I want you to get good enough that you can be a challenge for me. So I've got good training partners. How do I do that as quick as possible? I don't do it by going, you can only learn everything from me, repeat after me. You don't do it that way. So I want anyone on any given day to be able to cover the class for me. Like, and if I can get a person to that level, I'm like, oh, okay, like, that's great. I don't want to have to teach. I don't want to have to be the person who has to show you how to do jiu-jitsu. The thing I love the most, especially now that I've been teaching jiu-jitsu and coaching for like over 5 years, is being able to come into a class and not have to run it. It's my favorite thing, because now I can just get back to going like, oh, someone else is doing the class, and I can like enjoy learning again, and I don't have to be under all this pressure to deliver the correct details and be in that state. So yeah, I think, yeah, it's certainly, there's a lot of finesse to it that has often and will continue to be missed, but yeah.
Yeah, for me that part's pretty simple, because I'm just like, oh yeah, like, you want to do 50-50? Talk to Matty. You want to Joe's got the good inside game. Exactly. All right. You know, you want to learn wrestling? Go talk to Joel. You know, like, here's so like good. The few things I probably do like really, really well.
Yeah.
But outside of that, like, I can show you what I know, but like, I'm not going to be the authority on this, you know, like, and there's no expectation of that either.
Yeah, that's hugely powerful, man. Yeah. I think a gym needs to be able to do that if you want to grow as a gym, because then you're saying, hey, we provide so many more services. It's actually good for you.
Yeah.
If you're saying I'm the one and only, they're going to go, oh, well, it just focuses that like famine mindset, you know, like that, oh, there's only so much knowledge. I don't like that. I don't like that. I mean, the way I was taught jiu-jitsu was that it was a very open source thing, or grappling. It was like very open source, and you could go anywhere and find out anything from anyone. And I still love that, like being able to travel and go and train and drop in at a different place. It's so cool. Like, I think that's one of the coolest parts. And like, it's important not to lose that, because I've seen guys who, they go to some of those like more culty gyms and they refuse to train anywhere else, even when they're on holiday. And I'm like, bro, you're missing so much fun. You're missing so much fun.
I think, and at our gym, I think that's like a testament to Joe's like culture, like gym culture around the stuff. And that's, I think, what
really like the way he's doing it. You guys have got a good spot.
Yeah. Like, I think he's really like, pretty much like, isn't afraid to be like, oh, like the student has this thing really well, like you guys should play, like train with her or them or whatever, because like you learn this, and you know, like there's no like gatekeeping of any information. There's no, you know, it's all like cool, like whoever's good is good, and that's it, you know.
Good. All that good teaching is, there's no silver bullet, but if you want to be a good teacher, all you have to do is model learning. So if someone does something well, I'll go to them and be like, bro, what was that thing you did? Like, there's no need to gatekeep. Like, I mean, for some people there is a reason, and it's a financial reason. But like, if you pigeonhole yourself there, then you're cursed. You're really cursed. So by being more open and by modeling it correctly and going like, man, this is so much fun, and there's so many different ways to learn this. It's just way better overall, and it's such a relief on you as a, like, you don't have to hold the burden of the whole fucking gym, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, like I may be the head coach, but like Hellison, one of my guys, will teach on Wednesday night, or, you know, like I've had Kira, or like the girls covering the girls' classes on their own. Like, I don't have to be there. And yeah, I think that's really important, man, because otherwise, if they can't do that, you haven't really done right by your students, you know? If they can't go, oh shit, he's late, he's in traffic or whatever, let's get started and keep working on that thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
something's just doesn't sit right about that, eh? It's
Yeah.
like these are paying people who are like adults who know better.
Yeah.
And they're probably like way more qualified in their fields than I am in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, man. Fuck.
So if they
Lawyers, fucking millionaires, it's fucking crazy
property
who
developers.
learns from my dumbass.
Exactly.
Like, it's crazy.
So I think any teacher or anyone in that kind of position has to have the humility of being able to go like, man, like, you know, you guys are pretty awesome, but you're here paying for a service, and I need to be able to deliver that as best as I possibly can. So you have to reflect on it all the time. That's what makes a good coach. And I mean, it sounds like what you guys are doing, and like, yeah, that unfortunately fortunately or unfortunately, that never ends. So it's just about like enjoying it, eh?
The Future Cup Jiu-Jitsu tournament, man, that was fucking dope.
Yeah, the last one was
dude,
cool,
there was some insane matches. Bro, that suplex, what the fuck was
Nixon,
that?
Eh?
Holy shit.
So, I mean, firstly, we need to
remind me to pull guard if I ever roll with that motherfucker. Jesus Christ.
So yeah, Nixon Suddens is awesome, man. He's obviously been around for a while, but Kelston boy, and they've got a wrestling program at Kelston. So, you know, in Auckland, I think it's Auckland and maybe Hamilton at the most. I know in Christchurch there's a little bit, but they've got wrestling programs at their school. And I mean, Nixon's a phenomenal wrestler and grappler, but also looking at going into MMA, trains at CKB with all of those guys now. But yeah, that was exciting, man. Yeah, so, you know, like with the Future Cup and stuff like that, like I'm just like trying to put on exciting matches, and you know, it's those kind of matches I'm like, oh man, like as the ref, I'm just there like enjoying this. I'm like, holy shit. Oh God, I hope this guy's not dead. Like, but yeah, no, credit to him where it's due, eh? Like, I don't think I've ever had a boring round with Nixon, eh? Like, it's always so much fun training with him and watching him compete and bring good energy like that to a competition. Is so cool, eh? It's like, it's what people want to see. And like, you know, this is what, like, that was last year? Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah, because it's January.
Yeah. That was like what, November last year. To still remember that, I'm like, okay, cool. Like, that's me. Like, yeah. So that's kind of what we want to do, you know. It's like,
and it was cool. It was, you know, obviously a wide range of belt levels and skill levels, which I think kind of adds to the excitement, because a lot of lower belts will like turn it up and they just go harness and they don't really have careful strategy. They're just like, let's go, let's fucking exactly. And then you see the black belts at the end and it's like technical as fuck and like real like you know, fuck. I think Joel got beat by 1 point or something. It was like,
that was a good match, man.
And he was super upset, but I was like, bro, the guy's mean. Like, fucking Hanato's legit as fuck.
That's the coolest thing about putting on a show like this is now it's like a whole nother journey, because I got to do matchmaking and stuff like that. Fortunately, James, who owns the gym, and Taris, our gym manager, help a lot with all the other stuff like the lighting, the music, and everything like that. But mainly I'm responsible for reffing, because I know ADCC rules. I've done more rules seminars for ADCC than anyone else in New Zealand. And then also like matchmaking, because I know who's competing, like I know who's who, and the whole finesse and being able to do that has been so fun to kind of discover. Fun, like type 2 fun.
Definitely.
Because
stressful.
Deal with a ton of pullouts and like a whole bunch of other stuff as well. But you know, like I like, you can't just put black belts on, man. You can't just put them on, because like there'll be things that happen in a black belt match that the normal spectator does not understand and doesn't appreciate. So I don't know, by putting on a full range like that, I kind of just wanted to get to a point where like, I don't know, it's making it more accessible for everyone too. So when we decided we were going to do that, like we ran a couple of trial events as well, like just in the gym with no spectators and stuff like that. And we did brackets and we've done other stuff to try it out. But I think the best received ones are when we have like a wide range like that on. And so we're definitely going to keep doing that. We'll probably be doing another one quite soon. So that
was fun, man. That was cool. I'll be honest. I'm going to confess something right now. This is the fucking Catholic priest. No, for real though. I mean, I would say purposefully, maybe it's my ADHD as well, but like, I have avoided learning rules so that I never get asked to ref.
Yeah, man.
Like I will compete in a rule set and I don't fully know the rules, and that's okay. I don't give a fuck because I'm looking for the sub anyway.
Yeah. No, I looked at competing a lot like that. When I was like a blue belt and purple belt, and we'd go to like grappling industries in Oz like almost every weekend, and like I couldn't tell you the rules, but then as soon as I got to like trials levels competition,
that's
like,
fair enough. Yeah.
Okay, cool. You kind of have to like know them. But
I mean, like as long as I know, you know, like, if it's like sub only or ADCC or whatever, it's like okay, I know which positions I'm allowed to do, and like I don't have to worry about reaping and shit.
Disqualified.
Yeah. But outside of that, I'm kind of like, how many points? I don't fucking know. Yeah.
For sure. Reffing's, I would say, probably the least fun contribution back to the community that you can make, because it's so thankless and it's extremely hard.
And people just shouting at you. And again, if it's like, you know, I might not be the best I mean, you know, my focus is fucking dog shit. So if I need to like, you know, focus for 8 hours straight on this tournament, bro, like I'm going to miss some shit and people are going to be mad. Like it's not.
Well, it's not even just that people are going to be mad, bro, but like you lose focus, someone could get seriously hurt.
That's true. That too.
You could make a call that can actually like end a person's career or, God forbid, like change their life for the worse. And unfortunately, I've seen people do that, and like nothing makes me angrier than seeing a ref who doesn't do their job right. Because it's like, hey, firstly, you're probably getting paid to do this. If you're volunteering, okay, cool, I can understand if you maybe make a couple mistakes. But
if all you're getting paid is pizza, fair enough.
Yeah. But like, try hard to be the best ref you can. And I think if a person's doing that, then great. But like what I can't stand is when there's like a ref pretty much just standing there like watching another match or like chasing a fucking butterfly, bro. Because it's like, man, you've got to decide a winner on this match. That's one level of like pressure. But you also, like, if something goes wrong here, you are responsible, man. And I feel like that's a responsibility that really can't be taken lightly, eh?
Especially at the higher level when there's more on the line.
Yeah.
And you have things like, you know, heel hooks and stuff like that, where guys aren't necessarily going to let go once you tap. Like they'll wait for the ref to break you up. And it's like, bro, that's rough.
Yeah.
You know?
Or letting a match continue after something, like there's been like a dicey call or like a slam or something like that. Making a hard call like on a disqualification or things like that, or stopping a match at the right time, it's hard, bro. It's really hard, but it's the job. And if you're gonna do it, you got to do it properly. So like, like it's not a fun thing to do, but yeah, it's got to be done right. Absolutely. That's not like one of those teaching things where it's like, oh, if maybe handle, but it's like, no, you know your fucking rules and do the job perfectly. Because with that said, I've seen refs on the receiving end of some bullshit though as well. Like being told, like I've seen guys who are good refs and stuff get shit talked for like, oh, you know, the ref didn't know what he was doing. That was a bad call, da-da-da. And I just feel fucking bad for them, eh? Because it's like, bro, this person's out here like giving up their time. Like they could have probably been competing in this thing, but they're not.
Or they're gonna compete and before they comp, they're reffing, which is like, I can't even understand that.
Bro, I've reffed mid divisions.
Yeah, like, fuck that, dude. I can't understand. Like for me, I'm so anxious. There's no way. There's no way. I can't even fucking like think straight. You know what I mean? No chance.
I reffed a bunch of kids divisions, not even just matches, whole divisions, and then competed that afternoon. And it certainly affected the way I could compete. But it was also like, hey, someone's got to do it. Okay, cool, I'll do it. But like definitely a decision I wouldn't make again. Eh?
Before Joel's last MMA fight, where I don't know if you saw it, but that was a fucking like one-handed
the
arm triangle, whatever it was.
Under the arm.
Yeah, it was fucking wild.
That's cool.
Before that, he was fucking cornering his the other fighter from our gym, and I'm like, how are you doing this?
Stress.
Like it was like literally the fight before, and I'm like, how are you doing this? I would be shitting myself like no matter what, you know.
No, big respect for that. That's hard as fuck.
Yeah.
I get more stress cornering my like training partners and stuff in jiu-jitsu events than I do competing myself. Like it's just like ground. I was
because you have no control over it. You know, it's just like
I was cornering not even cornering. I was reffing one of my own competitors when they were doing the Future Cup. Like I'd put them on and I ground one of my fucking molars down. I was so tense in this match and I'm like, but you can't be biased. So I'm like, oh damn, like cracked a fucking molar. Like I was so anxious, But yeah, it's good fun, It's good fun. But yeah, cornering's stressful, man. Cornering, I mean, competing's stressful enough, and then having to combine any of those is like mad as.
Yeah.
I remember back in the day, like before COVID, Matty and I, Matt Mcmeeking and I, commentated a grappling show. That was like a pay-per-view. Well, it was a pay-per-view. And then I was still competing on that. And I competed so shit, bro, because like you just can't, I mean, I can do maybe 3 things well at any given time, but you're never going to be like, you're not in that zone for the focus. Like you're not able to like really warm up. You're not able to do all those
things. You got to be smooth on the mic. You got to be loose. And then all of a sudden you got to be like focused. And it's hard to switch.
Yeah. It's always going to affect you, So yeah, like multitasking on the day at a comp, man. Yeah, I respect it.
Yeah.
I respect it. Anyone who's like reffing, competing the same day is like really doing the most. But yeah.
Cool, man. Want to see a trick?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
We used to do them at the start of the thing, but then it kind of was like, oh, we forgot to intro the guy, or you know what I mean? So I just like leave it for the end now. Pack of cards, all different.
Cool.
Can you see those? It doesn't really fully matter, but just so. Cool. I'm just going to like go like this. You tell me stop whenever you want.
Okay, stop.
Right there. Remember that? Got it?
Okay.
The camera. Yeah. Can you mix them up?
All right.
Cool. So this is normally like, there's the cliche of pick a card and I'll find it sort of thing.
Yeah.
And what annoys me about it is that as soon as I go pick a card, people go, I know this trick. And I'm like, there's probably like 3 million tricks that start like this. But anyway.
But also just appreciate the thing, man. Yeah.
No, but it's just funny. So I tend to stay away from pick a card tricks and like finding them. I try to like not do the cliche thing, but this is one of the ones where I say it's worth it. So
okay.
I'm going to look through and you mix these up, right? I'm going to look through and I'm going to make a, could be wrong. Maybe this one. And you saw the card?
Yeah.
Can you just like kind of like visualize that image in your mind over and over? Okay. Maybe this one. It's a toss up. Okay, you know what? I'll go for 2 more. 1. Okay. I reckon one of these.
Okay.
I actually think, okay, definitely not this half of the deck. Okay, so you can hold on to this for now.
All right.
Actually, it could be this one. Okay, let's see. So if I'm even, I could have fucked it up, but if I'm even right, just tell me. I'm going to show you these 5 cards. Okay. Tell me after. Don't tell me now.
Yeah.
Okay, so, what we have is the 5 of clubs, the 6 of spades, king of spades, queen of diamonds, and 4 of hearts. Was it one of these 5?
Yes.
It was. Yeah. Okay, so you don't remember the position of it, eh? So it doesn't really matter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but you saw it in here. Yeah, okay. Okay, here we go. No. Okay, I'm going to go for this one. Let's see. Okay, so you definitely saw it in here.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's...
if it's in this, bro.
That's 1. That's 2, 3, 4.
Oh, God.
There's 1 card missing. Your card's not here, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fuck you.
Pick up the cards and turn them face up.
Okay.
In your hand.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
And so now if you spread through and like bring them more towards you, because I think the camera will probably pick that up more. So like closer to you.
Right.
There should be 1 card facing the opposite direction somewhere inside the middle.
Yeah. There is.
What was your card?
My card was the king of spades. Right.
Ta-da.
That's fucked. That's
and you can
so
check those
good,
out.
man.
Yeah.
Wow, man. Fuck.
Thank
That's
you.
buzzing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome, bro. The first time I saw you doing some magic was actually at Holy Moly in town.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Did I perform for you?
Yeah, bro.
Wow.
So you were working there, and I was on an early date with my wife.
Wow.
Now wife. And
Cool.
yeah, you were working at that.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Do you remember what I did?
You did a magic. You did a card trick.
Yeah.
I can't remember which card it was, but you also managed to call it perfectly. But
okay.
that's buzzy, bro. Like the non-contact part.
Yeah.
Freaks me.
I'm sure you watch it back, you'll figure it out. But
Probably not. But I also don't like to try and figure it out. I also just love appreciating like a good magic trick. Like, some people like, I mean, I love The Prestige, that film, so good. But like some people just want to figure it out. Like, how does it work? I'm like, I'm okay like appreciating just the mystery of it.
The thing is, I can appreciate both. I can appreciate both aspects because that's why I got into magic, because I was like, how the fuck does it work? You know what I mean? But as I got deeper into magic, I was like, oh wow, I actually can't get that anymore. Like in the same way, it's hard to find like good roles, you know? And I'm like, oh, okay. So when I see something I don't understand, unless it's something I can see myself performing, I don't look into it.
Yes.
You know?
Okay, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Otherwise you like,
I lose that mystery, you know? But it's funny because the Holy Moly was a fun time. I used to do like, that was when I was grinding.
Right. Bro,
because
how was that though? Because like Holy Moly was like pretty fair away. Like, like how much grief did you get from like drunk people?
So here's the cool part about Holy Moly, right? So Holy Moly was this like mini golf bar out in town.
Yeah. Right on the viaduct.
Right on the viaduct. So,
Is
next
it still
to
there? Nah.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. It closed for COVID and stuff, but then they reopened and it was all good. And so there was a couple of things about Holy Moly, right? So I was on for 3 hours on a Friday, Saturday night, right? So that's like 6 hours performance
heavy
time.
Traffic night.
Yeah. It sounds like not a lot. It doesn't sound like a lot. But
that's
like
a lot, man.
Performing magic is you got to be on. And you got to be on in a way where you have to be hyper aware of everything.
Yeah.
Right? Drunk guy comes in. I gotta like notice that. I gotta make sure I manage it. Boom. Okay. He thinks I'm flirting with his chick. Okay. I gotta massage his ego. Okay. Like it's this whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah. It's on.
Yes. Like constantly.
Yeah.
So it's fucking tiring.
Yeah.
Like it's not like a normal shift of like working anything else.
That's like a full on gig. Like
yeah. And it's like, it's, decent money. So like, I'm not complaining. I'm just saying like it was, and so, but my favorite part about it is that they always had these fucking huge Tongan like bouncers, and I would go every time and perform for them first.
Oh yeah.
And they loved me, right? They were like, bro, any problems? You just just point. And I'm like, fuck yeah.
That's awesome, yeah.
And then they found out I do Jitsu and they're like, holy fuck, bro. Like they were like, intimidated. I'm like, bro, like you would pick me up and chuck me into the fucking water. There's no chance.
Yeah,
they were massive, these guys.
Holy shit.
Fucking huge.
That's another job that's like reffing, eh?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool though, man.
But I never had to abuse the power. There was one time I got close and then the guy calmed down and I was like, wow, okay.
Oh, that's
cool.
That's lucky. Yeah, that's good, man.
But the thing is, like, I think that environment, if you're not, so I think heckling and like that sort of like, that conflict, I think a lot of it is on the magician. Like it's kind of their fault.
If you allow it to happen, eh?
Not even allow it. I think it's like where you're coming from as well.
True.
Because if I come around and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm hot shit. You don't know fuck all.
You kind of want to subvert that.
Oh yeah. Who does you want to make me look stupid because I made you look stupid.
Yes.
You know?
True.
And so I think like my biggest challenge and like learning, my biggest learning point was figuring out a way to come in at it on the same level.
Right.
And it's like, look, dude, I have some cool shit.
Rapport,
like some cool shit. Do you want to see this cool shit? And they're like, oh yeah. And then I do it. And then I kind of give them like, I let them in behind the curtain enough so that they feel like we're on the same level, but not enough that it ruins them. So like
that's interesting. Eh? There's a cool little like finesse to that. Eh?
Absolutely. And I think I thought I was good at magic until I got those gigs, and then I was like, oh man,
yeah.
This so then I kind of
that's more it's more about that than the trick, because like, if nobody wants to fucking see it, it doesn't matter.
And if you're an asshole, no one cares.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like, fuck this guy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that's
so
cool, man.
I have all these like little like stories about, or like little spiels about like attention and stuff, and like the psychology of how I actually misdirect you and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That is almost more interesting than the trick itself.
Yeah.
Because it's genuinely real.
Have you found that any of those have like translated to jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, I've had this question before. That's hilarious.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. So okay, here's the thing, right? Martial arts has deception ingrained within the art.
Yeah, yeah.
So in a sense, if you're training a martial art, you already have a like misdirection and deception within your moving patterns. Within like, think about like setting up a double leg, right? Snap down, feint, snap down, feint.
Yeah.
You go for the snap before you even reach the head. You shoot.
Yeah.
That's the trick, right? That's the trick. They expect the snap. They put their head back, and now they've opened up their legs, and you can take it.
Right.
That's exactly the same idea, right? So there's a thing like called conditioning. Let's assume I had a coin in my hand, right? And you can throw the coin, or you can fake the throw, right? But if I just fake the throw from the get-go, right? It's quite easy to figure out, like, okay, like he probably didn't really do it. But if I throw it once and I show you, I throw it once and I show you, and this and the
conditioning,
and there's a context for that, right? Like, I'm not just doing it randomly. There's, for whatever reason, it makes sense in the context. The third time I throw but I fake, you don't even register it because you assume it's gone because you've been conditioned to believe that, you know. So all these things cross over. But they're not. Like, I couldn't just like...
It's not as explicit, So I, like... it's actually through philosophy that I, like, learned to enjoy magic, because a big part of what I teach my students is skepticism. And then we study a guy called James Randi, famous magician, but also a renowned skeptic. And he kind of debunked guys like Uri Geller and things like that. And I remember growing up, and Uri Geller was like this, like, holy shit, like this guy can actually bend spoons. Like, oh my God, it's crazy. So yeah, I don't know, like my appreciation for magic came actually like quite late in life. Like as a kid, you know, you go to like parties and see it, but like now I look at like hypnotism and stuff, and even though like I teach philosophy and I'm a skeptic, I'm like, man, this is really, it's cool. Like there's something like mysterious about it that allows us to go like, hey, you know, like it's cool that like we don't know everything, or like we can't figure everything out, because the world would be pretty boring otherwise, eh?
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, that's actually a cool, like, yeah, not a lot of people know of James Randi, and like that's a cool callback.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, like I grew up very religious, and I felt like there was a lot of fuckery. And not everyone, a lot of people were sincere, but there was a lot of fuckery and a lot of like, pulling on people's heartstrings and manipulation and things like that. And like even deception, you know?
Oh yeah, for sure.
So when I learned magic, part of me resonated with that aspect of it, where it's like, wow, like you can do this to someone in a safe environment, but you could also do it in an unsafe environment. And that's what's kind of like, that's why I feel people are often uncomfortable with it. And it's a really vulnerable space to play in, which is why I think the magician needs to be on his toes and like, and make, and like check his own ego.
Yeah, bro. That's a really interesting thing. And I remember going to, at uni, I went to a hypnotist show, and he very much did that, where he like put a person under and then like kind of humiliated them on stage. And the feeling of discomfort that I had from that was like, it was really intense, because it was like, this person's kind of trusted you. Yeah. And you've really taken advantage of that, And isn't that funny how it crosses over with jiu-jitsu and that like more culty aspect as well? Because there's people who do that as well. But I know teachers who do it too. And it's like, you can gaslight someone for a good reason, a good cause. Like you can gaslight someone into learning something, or you can gaslight them into like a cult, and really make them, like manipulate them, So
and it's funny you say that. Like I've noticed that pattern where I think some people get into the magic for the wrong reasons. You know, like maybe there's a power dynamic there where it's like they crave this, like, you know, maybe, I don't know what their life was like growing up, but maybe they felt like powerless. And so they grow up and they're like maybe a little bit socially awkward. And then they're like, fuck it, I'm going to get back to the, you know, and I'm going to be like, it's almost like a God complex to a certain degree. And it really puts me off a lot of people. And I don't want to generalize magicians, but like I've seen it.
But that happens in everything. I don't think it's just that. I think you can look at any scene and there's people who do that, you know? And yeah, I mean, I think that's why I love jiu-jitsu, because you can filter that. You really can. If you have someone who's like the mat enforcer and you've kind of aligned them to go like, hey, like, let's protect the values of our space and our gym, you can build that, and it can be done in other places. And I don't think it's the same as gatekeeping something, but you have to have something that can protect people, because people are way more vulnerable than they think, man. I see it a lot with social media these days. Like, people are so like hypnotized by the algorithm, and it's just like, man, like, you're in a state of suggestion where you don't even know you're consuming stuff as in the term of a consumer. Yeah. But you are.
Or even from a place of like posting, you know, like as someone that has done a lot of YouTube and has done a lot of, like, you know, we do a lot of stuff for this pod. Yeah. There's an element where if you're not careful, your self-worth starts getting dictated by the numbers. Because that's the only metric you have to figure out if you're doing a good or bad job. And so there's this whole like burnout thing. And, you know, like I used to do YouTube and I grew a channel to like 40K and I was doing reactions and all this stuff. Yeah. And I found myself
that
like
was your magic channel. Like,
and I found myself like not enjoying magic anymore and not enjoying not enjoying doing it. I was just doing it because it was the only thing getting views, you know? And I had to really step back and be like, wait a minute, like, am I even creating things? When I started making those reaction videos, I genuinely felt like I was a voice in a space that needed that voice. Because a lot of people would watch magic and they would like instantly be like, oh, it's shit because I know how it's done. And it's like, well, I was giving the perspective of like, oh, this is actually really difficult to get to. And like, look at all the skill involved.
You were like charged by like a message that you were like putting out there.
Right. Like there was a sense of purpose to it, you know, whereas towards the end of it, it was just like, I had a format that was working and it was getting like sometimes millions of views, but like, I didn't feel like there was any point to it, you know, because I had done it like fucking 9 months in a row, the same type of fucking video. And so, and it was just me doing it and like, you know, the editing, the posting, it was getting way too much. And then whenever I would like put something up that like maybe resonated more with how I was feeling then, or like with the message I wanted to talk about, it wasn't getting the views. Yeah. And so I was like, fuck. Oh, shit.
Like, you're almost getting algorithm by the
I felt stuck, right? And so with this podcast, that's like why we like, I took a huge break, and then like me and Amy were like, okay, let's actually create something that we genuinely believe in at every point, and just post it like to tick the boxes, like, we've done the like the social media part of it, but we're not like driven by the algorithm.
That's cool.
Because if we wanted to do that, I would have done all of it on Zoom and try to get like the most famous people possible. And like Kit Dale was almost going to be on here, but then he wasn't going to come to New Zealand. So then that didn't happen. So then, he was like, oh, do you want to do it on Zoom? And I'm like, we only do it in person. And you know, so there was all these things where like we really had to like kind of hammer down on like, no, we'll do what we feel like is valuable, you know?
Yeah, I think you've got to do that, man. I think that resonates a lot with what I did with the Articulate BJJ blog back in the day. Because
I remember reading that, by the way. There was some good stuff man.
On there. So like when I started that, I'd kind of been paying my rent and stuff through uni as like a freelance writer. So like I studied English and philosophy at uni, and then I got into like writing and I was doing some freelance sports writing while I was still in Christchurch. And then when I got to Auckland and I was just teaching and training, I had no like outlet other than that. So I just like literally just on a lark just started the blog. And I think until it collapsed, I didn't run any ads. I didn't do any paid content or anything like that, or any clickbaity things. And I felt such a good release of like endorphins every time I put an article out, whether one person read it or 50. And anytime that I did look at the numbers, because like it was through WordPress or whatever, so you could see the numbers. Like every time I looked at it, like I literally couldn't tell you which articles did well or not. And I think that was probably, it was a big blessing that I'm really glad I did then, because if I did it now, I think I would probably be too worried about that, and I wouldn't be putting out the same stuff. So like I had an issue with it. Like fuck, when did I stop? It was like 2018 or 2019 when the fucking hosting went down on the blog.
Yeah.
And I was so freaked out for a week because I was like, oh my God, like, you know, like no one's going to be able to read anything. And then I was like, bro, actually, you know, this is like kind of a blessing in disguise, because now you like, I kind of said everything I wanted to say. And like, there were no like real buttons that I could like push that were giving me that kind of catharsis from my writing. Cause that's essentially all I use it for, is to try and figure shit out for myself. And cool, if someone reads it and it resounds with them, that was awesome. I always found that real buzzy. But when it went down, I was just like, okay, yeah, it was what it was, and it's great. And I mean, it sounds like that journey for you has kind of been in the reverse, but like it's got to be something rewarding. Otherwise, why bother? You know,
I've said this a lot. It's like, even if all that came out of it was a conversation, like this is a conversation we would have never had.
Exactly.
And you know what I mean? And so it's like there's value in that itself.
100%.
But I think there's a balance that you can kind of strike where, like for example, the short form content. There's a clear like strategy and like ability to like, you know, to choose the right type of short form or the right piece of short form out of this whole conversation that would do better. Yeah. And so that's where the like actually analyzing numbers and stuff comes in, but it's from a detached perspective.
Yes.
It's not like, oh, like we should do this more because this is what gave. No. It's like, okay, this is what we have.
Yeah.
What are the best bits that we can cut and edit and stuff, you know?
Yeah, man. And I mean, you always see those shorts on like Instagram reels where it's just like some dude like dunking on like a panel of someone, you know, and it's just like your whole podcast is so hostile. Like your whole thing is like to create this conflict, and they know that like reality TV or whatever, it drives their numbers. And I just like,
I mean, I'll be honest. I did that with Eric a little bit. Like, what do you hate about the white belt? But that to me is hilarious. You know, it's not like
context as well. You know, like it's authentic and it's within context.
Yeah, like if it's a drama I genuinely care about, or I feel like is important, or I feel like is hilarious, and I'm not taking it seriously, then it's fine. But there's guys out there. You're right.
It's just like rings real hollow.
Yeah, it's just like it is just for the views and nothing else. And I can kind of recognize because I was there at one point.
Yeah. I mean. Yeah, the social media thing's funny, because like when I first started jiu-jitsu, there was no one on social media, because social media wasn't there. Like you maybe had Facebook, but man, it's so different now. The kind of access you get to like even the top guy in the sport, you can literally DM them, you know. And I think that really changes the dynamic of like how people's social interactions are, because you can say the most foul things to them like in their DMs, and then you see them, and then are you really going to say the same thing? You know, I've seen that, and I'm no one. Like, I'm like, bro, like you would never say.
Oh yeah, I've had death threats, and it's all, you know, all that kind of shit. Bro. But I'm just like, you know, after a certain point, you realize that it's essentially a mirror into people's minds. Yeah. And you would never have access to that unless it was for the social media. And it's actually not for you to read. Even though they direct it at you, it's not yours. Like, it's not for you to read. It's for them to externalize their internal for whatever reason they need to do that, you know?
Really good way of putting it, eh?
Yeah. And so like, I almost don't, I can't say it's never affects me. Every once in a while it affects me, but it's funny because it'll be something that, if I really dig down, it's like, oh, I'm actually like insecure about that thing on a deep level. And I'm wondering if they're right, you know?
That's a good point.
But that's the only time it's ever affects me. If it's something like, if it's just negative for the sake of being negative, it's literally, I don't even care.
Wow, yes.
And if it does affect me, I then have to do some work on myself and really dig down and say, why does it affect me?
Yeah,
you know?
that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's such a good way of putting it. It's so true, eh? I mean, they're just telling you what they like think of themselves. Yeah. In
a sense, yeah. And like, you know, people have like intrusive thoughts, for example, right? And in a sense, like that's a thought that occurs in their brain or in their mind, sorry, brain is different than mine, in their mind that they can't necessarily control.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then we look at like, all of a sudden, if they've typed it, now all of a sudden they mean that.
And
you know?
I guess that's a funny one because it seems like typing it out is like a lower stakes way of realizing it than actually going out and doing it.
Yeah.
Because they would never go out and do that. But if you type it, it's almost like it's lower stakes, like it's not real, but it is in a way.
It's not real to them, but it is real to you because it's you that they're talking about, you know? And that's the weird dynamic there where once you flip that switch and you realize actually like they don't even think it's real, you know? But you take it as real. And that's where that conflict is.
Yeah, man, fuck, social media is scary, eh? The more I think about it, the more it scares me. But
for
me, like, it's helped me a lot. Like, you know, it's helped me get access to, like, becoming a coach in jiu-jitsu and doing what I'm doing. So I can't knock it for that. But man, it's a razor's edge, and yeah, there's a lot to it that is just like unreal, like literally and metaphorically. Like, it's a buzzy one, man.
Yeah, see, my issue with it is I have the same instinct as you, is to go, ooh, this is bad. But then I'm also aware that every generation has done that with the new shit in the new
TV,
generation
newspaper,
every
radio.
Single fucking time. Like it's so predictable.
Yeah.
And so purely on that, I tend to like push against my instinct in that area because I'm kind of like, well, we'll figure it out.
Exactly.
You know, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah. I'm noticing the same thing with AI. Like the whole conversation with AI is like that. And, you know, like especially like at Easter time when I visited Texas, it's in your face. It's everywhere when you visit a place like Austin and like everything's there. And I was just like, yes, we can look at all the dangers and all of this, but like, man, you know, there's so much potential and like a lot of the fears are unwarranted.
Yeah.
Like, and yeah, that's been the same with everything, I guess, you know.
There's instinct to
change.
There's an instinct to be scared of change. And I've noticed this, like we've noticed this just recently where, I mean, we're not talking about like AGI, but like AI. So we found a new software. Actually, Mum sent me the link, which is hilarious. But
Thanks,
a new piece of like platform thing where you can literally just type the link of your long form content, and it will generate shorts, like 30 shorts in half an hour or whatever.
Jeez.
And you just choose the best ones, and you're done.
Man,
and I spent that same day when I got the link, I spent 6 hours editing manually 6 reels.
Yeah.
And then Mum sends me the link. I'm like, all right, it can't be that good. How good can it be? Fuck, I bet it sucks. And then I put it in and they're better than mine. And I'm like, fuck, you know? And it was that thing of like, okay, well, there's 2 parts. Now I'm sad because I just wasted 6 hours, but I'm happy that it's going to save me time in the future. But at the same time, there was something satisfying about being like, it almost felt like
process, right?
Yeah, but it almost felt like I had a competitive advantage. Like I'm willing to grind it out, and you're fucking not. I'm gonna fucking sit here and edit 6 reels in a day, and you're not gonna do that.
You're the idiot because I was just like, here's the thing.
And but then there's also the aspect of like, well, actually, I kind of enjoyed that process. And now it's taken the only creative element out of the process because I still have to upload them. I still have to put the captions on. I still have to schedule them. So those were the boring shit that I didn't want to do anyway.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh,
you kind of want the AI to do that.
Exactly, right? So there's this weird, like, I'm really conflicted about this whole thing. But at the end of the day, I got to go with change. Like, because otherwise I'm just going to become that old guy that's fucking, you know.
Back in my days.
Yeah.
But fuck, man, it's funny because all of that relates back to jiu-jitsu if we're going to bring it back to that, man. Because, like, you know, I've seen over the years, I've seen dudes get belts like the easy way. You know, like, I hate to say that, but like not all belts are equal. Like you talked about this last time, but like I've seen guys who get to brown and black belt and I'm like, bro, we're such idiots because like we spent every day in the training room. This dude trained 3 times this year and he's still got, he's at the same belt level as me. And I was like, for a while, it gave me a real complex, like, cause I was a white belt for 5 years. And in that time, I was training every day, and there'd be guys who'd get their blue belt and stuff. And like, I was young, and I also just don't know what I know now. But I was fuming at that, bro.
Yeah.
I took that as like, that was like the worst possible thing that could happen, and I was just like, what the fuck, like,
so unfair.
Yeah, I was like, this is unfair. Like, this is wrong. Like, and like I couldn't figure it out. And then, yeah, a friend of mine, a real good friend of mine was just like, don't worry about other people's journey. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's cool and all, but I still really value the process over everything else, because there is a right way and a wrong way to do this.
And again, if you get it easy, you don't value it.
So the same thing with your with the editing now. Like if you'd had that, you would never valued what it used to be like, and it would just be a thing.
True.
Like I love like 4G, 5G network now, because I remember what fucking dial-up was like.
And sometimes you just go back. Sometimes you're like, oh, you know what? Like I actually really enjoyed driving manual cars.
Exactly.
Like I'm not a car guy at all. I couldn't tell you what the fuck any of those pipes mean. But I enjoy driving a manual because it's just like, it's something like interesting, and I don't get bored while I'm driving, you know?
Exactly. And yeah, I feel like if you haven't had that, you're not going to appreciate where you've got to. And yeah, I kind of like that about jiu-jitsu, because it feels like it's the one thing that you can't generate with AI. You can't bullshit it. You know? And I mean, that's the old school saying to the max, like the Nats don't lie. But it's kind of true, because like you can have a black belt on and be my warm-up role, and I'm not that good. Yeah.
And there's other guys that you're their warm-up role, and that just is what it is.
I've got some guys who are still like, I've got a guy who's like a 4-stripe white belt. It's like my most exhausting role, you know? Like you roll with like a Nixon Suttons, bro. Like doesn't matter that he's a blue belt, bro. He's gonna fucking kill you, you know? Yeah. So I love seeing that happen, like from an outside perspective as well. I love seeing like that whole dynamic play out, because it's just there's that bottom line of truth in it that you can't get rid of. You can't fake it,
For any lower belts listening, if you're struggling with you're tapping people out and they get promoted before you, right? Common problem. I'm sure everyone's like had that thought in their mind, like, what the fuck, man? Like it's happened, I guarantee you. And as much as we talk about no ego, you're gonna feel it.
Everything's got ego.
Yeah. But I think the way to reframe that is, there's standards for belts. There should be standards for belts. You shouldn't be a black belt if you don't actually have the skills of a black belt. I agree. But there's also an element of like your own potential, right?
Oh yeah. 100%.
So like not everyone has the same level of athleticism. Yeah. Not everyone has the same level of intellect, IQ. Like even purely like Matty outthinks me. He doesn't like, we will be in a scramble and he will just think faster than I do. And I fucking can't do nothing about it.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, there's always going to be that thing.
Yeah. And so like, if someone's getting a belt before you, it doesn't mean that they objectively are like 100% better than you in every way or whatever. They're not. It could just be that in their potential for what their black belt journey would look like, they are now at the blue belt level, right? And you might end up being way better at that blue belt level than they are at that blue belt level. Yeah. But that's your potential. That's your journey, right? It's a reflection of the potential there, because we're not always all going to get to black belt and be like the same level of killer. There's some better black belts, some worse black belts. It just is what it is.
The funniest thing is, imagine if there were no belts. Imagine then. And I think that was the biggest blessing I had for being a white belt that long, was that I stopped caring, because you know, the worst thing you can do in the sport is care too much about the color of a fucking belt you wear. Yeah. I mean, I pretty much almost exclusively do no gi now and chuck the gi on for fun. And then you're not even wearing a belt. So what does it matter, you know? Yeah. But yeah, everybody reads the book at a different speed, man.
Absolutely.
And I use that analogy because I teach English. It's like, you know, if I give a set book to a class of kids, none of them they're not one of them will be on the same page as another kid at the end of class. And if that isn't like a truer analogy for like the speed of learning, I don't know what is. Yeah. But yeah, you just, not everyone's identical, and that's the best part about it.
Yeah, and if you suck more than someone else, good. You have a bigger, like you're going to make a bigger improvement, and you're going to value that improvement 100%. Way more than someone that starts off really good. Yeah, I've been talking about social media and like it being kind of really difficult for people. I follow this guy called Healthy Gamer GG. He's you know him? No, he's a Harvard like psychiatrist. Wow. That he failed out of school, went to India to become a monk, and then they told him like, okay, if you really want to give up everything, you got nothing left to give. So go and do your career, Once you become a doctor, come back and then give it up. And then he didn't give it up in the end, you know?
Right.
But, and then he basically focuses on people that are like online, like gamers and social media and stuff like that. That's like his thing. And he's like streams on Twitch and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Really cool guy, but he talks about meditation, right? And I've tried meditation in the past, and like with my ADHD, I feel like I'm just shit at meditation. My mind wanders hard and it's constantly bouncing. And there's guys that like, I went to a retreat, a 10-day thing with like no talking for 10 days. And it was the hardest thing I've ever done.
Oh my God,
it was fucking terrible. Like, I mean, like it was amazing in terms of, you know, type 2, zone 2, whatever the hell we were talking about, but it sucked.
Dude, I can only imagine.
And my mate was like, oh, it got better every day. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, bro? I was struggling.
Holy shit.
And then he reframed it. Like when I was watching him, he was talking about meditation, and he said, well, someone whose mind wanders a lot is doing more reps. Yeah. So to bring your mind back to center without judging yourself for it, that's one rep. Think of it like lifting the weight.
Yes.
So someone that's got great focus is just going to stay there, and that's cool, and there's no effort there, and then it wanders, and then he has to bring it back, and that's where the effort comes. If you have a constantly wandering mind, you're going to do 1,000,000 reps. And so your practice is actually way more efficient, and you're getting way better, way quicker than someone that's like got a really good focus.
That's a good point. And I think about the way that I think about jiu-jitsu as a meditation, not by doing it, but by doing those mental reps. Because like for me, especially when you start competing a lot, you've got to like visualize your technique and your rolls. So I use that like a mental break, because I'll be doing whatever I'm doing, and then like my mind space for the day is to go, okay, cool, well, I'm going to think about this technique. Maybe it was something I saw Marcelo do or whatever, and then I'll do that rep in my mind. And I think that's been the biggest gift I've got from ADHD or whatever it is that like your mind wanders, and you can use that to actually build a better sense of how to stay in the zone and use that when you do get to it. Because I mean, like I went to trials in Singapore now, just past, and like it was the best mentality wise I'd ever felt, because I'd done so many reps in training and been so conscious about it. This was one of the things I was really grateful that my coaches direct me towards, because they were like, you're gonna write me notes after every session. And I used to write notes, but I hadn't for ages. And I did it every day for like 6 weeks leading up to the trials. And to write notes, you obviously have to think back to what happened. And I got like really, really good at being able to pull like any detail of a rollout without video and writing it down. And I was just like, man, I got to trials at the day and I was just like on lock for like 6 hours. And they were like, bro, your division's not until 3 o'clock and it's like 9 in the morning. And I was like, I don't care. Like just like locked in the zone. And anytime it wandered, like I knew exactly what to do to pull it back. And then, like you appreciate it when you have to work for it, you know? Like I think that's the same with anything, but it's so cool how that all just crosses over, man. It's like, you can take that into anything. Yeah.
Just skill acquisition, I think, in general, right? Like there's just so many correlations, you know, learning, like drilling magic, spaced repetition. Fuck, man. Like I'll be, because with magic, the difference is that you could do 5,000 reps in a day. Unless you start getting fucking carpal tunnel and shit, because your fingers will start fucking
fatiguing.
But depending on the type of move or whatever, you could do thousands of reps in a day, and then you hit a wall. And for the longest time, I would just keep pushing through it, and it doesn't get any better. And you'll have days and days and days where you'll do the same move like thousands more times, and it doesn't get any better.
It's kind of like you've overtrained yourself.
Absolutely. And then it's like you overtrain the nervous system, or like the mental side of things, because you like it's such a minute feel. It's like even you know, very specific. Like it could be literally the ability to feel the width of a single card. You know. And then you'll take a week off because you're like, fuck this move, I'm done with this shit.
You come back to it, and
it's just like, instant. It's like perfect every time, and you're like, right, okay, you know.
That's what I like at the start of the year with jiu-jitsu as well. Like you come back and you can tell who's had like a good break and like who's trained through, because like someone's at like they're already at that like red line of overtraining, and some people are just like been to R&B, like they've been partying and they come back and they're just like fresh faced and I'm like, you're gonna be a problem. Like,
unless they partied a little too hard and then the cardio is fucked and the heart rate is gone. You're like, bro, fuck, I have palpitations.
Yeah. Been hitting the vape, bro.
Oh no, not the vape.
Yeah.
Actually, Joel made me stop vaping.
Oh, were you vaping?
So we went on a few holidays, and every time we'd go on a holiday, if there was a culture of smoking, I would just like join in because it's like when in Rome, you know, we went to Solomon Islands, it's all they do over there.
So you like break the smoking habit when you come back?
Yeah. But then for whatever reason, one of the times like it carried over and I started like vaping. I didn't smoke, but I started vaping, and I'm just like, okay, fuck, this is terrible. And it would kind of like go in and out. Like I would like hit it sometimes and not, you know, it was like this middle ground. And I remember hitting the vape like before training and then going in and Joel goes, you want a round? I'm like, yeah. And then I had to stop 3 times in the roll because I was about to puke. And he's like, are you okay, bro? And I'm like, yeah. Like, I'm good. And it was the most embarrassing because normally I can give him at least a competitive role, you know, like at least he gets work. This time he couldn't even fucking like practice what he like. Shit. I couldn't even be on bottom, you know what I mean?
Oh, damn.
And I was like, oh my God, nah, never again. Like, and so since then, like I still have nicotine gum and stuff that we use, but never hit a vape since because I was like, it was such a visceral thing where I'm like, nah, this is fucked. What the fuck was that?
Wow. Good on you, Joel. One less vapor. That's
yeah.
Awesome. So, fuck, man. I just feel like, I mean, your lungs are such an important part of like being able to do jiu-jitsu properly because like the number one thing we're trying to do in the sport is stop you from breathing. Yeah. You know, like, so like if they aren't functioning, it's not going to be a good time.
Especially with someone that can pressure.
Oh, yeah.
Like, cause you're not just like, it's not even a choke at that point. It's any movement should just restrict your breathing to some degree. Yeah.
Fuck, I'm such a dick at the moment, bro. I'm like working on this like this S mount pressure.
Yep.
Where you like pull their head and shoulder up and then tap them with the pressure.
Yeah.
And like
the Gordon Ryan thing he did.
Yeah. So
well, I mean, he didn't invent it, but yeah.
Yeah, I saw Marigali did it to me to set his triangles up. And of course there's no way in fucking hell I'm tapping to pressure. Like I mean, that has worked to my detriment in the past, but like, I don't know, just on principle alone, like, I feel
that's the old school mentality right there.
Yeah. I just feel like if I have to tap to pressure, I feel like a kitten dies somewhere, you know, but they use it to set something else up. And if you don't give them that look and you tap to pressure, it's on you anyway. That's like that whole thing with the smother choke and stuff at the moment. Everyone's like, oh, it's such a bullshit move. I'm like,
defend it.
Yeah, I was
and
like,
then they'll give you, you'll get the arm or whatever.
Yeah, I'm like, that's a bullshit move because you just didn't do anything, and then you just got tapped by a dude's titties, bro. Like, that shouldn't happen. But it's I love that.
Although
kind of stuff,
I feel like the way Big Dan does it sometimes is more of a crank. Like he goes like hands behind the neck.
Oh yeah, and that lift is a little.
It's a little sus. It's a little sus. Cranky. But you know.
But yeah, it was more of a crank, bro.
I'm never the guy to say it, but I think it. You know.
That's my favorite one. I'm like, yeah, I know. Like, it was a crank. That was on purpose. But yeah, I don't know. Like those kind of like those dickheadish moves in jiu-jitsu also have their place.
Oh yeah.
Do you know Kurt Osiander?
Yep. That's a hilarious motherfucker right there.
When he used to do those little YouTube breakdowns that he did, man, that was like early days.
Bro, he taught me how to tape my toes. Have you seen that video? Yeah, turf toe. Yeah. That's the number one thing.
I remember when he did Animal Planet, bro, and I was like, oh, whoa. And so for anyone who doesn't know, like Kurt Osiander is a pretty old school black belt under Health Gracie.
Oh, they were ruthless in that room, bro.
Yeah, and he would like. Animal Planet was when the guy actually does the right thing coming out of bottom side control and like postures up on their side and exposes their back, and he would take his fist and close his fist, find the floating rib, and then pressure you over the floating rib. And I was just like, I remember seeing that and then going and doing it, and it worked, and I was like, oh, like, okay, this is awesome. This is fucking cool. But
Paolo used to do that to people that he like was close to giving them a belt.
Oh,
I think
just like
he would like fist under the back, and then what he would also do is he'll listen to your breathing.
Yeah.
And he would like time his squeezes. So like every time you took a breath, he every time you tried to take a breath, he would squeeze, and then when you exhaled, he would like sink harder.
Space, yeah.
Bro, it was death. And like once you had to fully, like you had to bridge to the max to create like the tiniest amount of space for your lungs to expand, and that's when you'd be like, okay, all right, you're not a scrub anymore, you know? Like it was hilarious.
Yeah, I love those kinds of things. I've only ever once been done by like that Kesa, like Kesa Gatami, like the when the guy leans into it and like you can finish it. I've only ever been done once by that, and it was in comp. And fuck, like
it's legit.
I was like, I can't tap to this. Like this is not a real move. And then like I felt my sternum crack, and I was like, okay, I think it's probably quite real. Like you should probably tap to this, man. But yeah,
similar thing. Last comp, I in the final fucking. Gets just a face crank from the back, and I'm like, I'm not gonna. My teeth's about to break. My teeth's about to break. Okay.
Oh, my jaw is going through the back of my head.
Because his I don't know, forearm was like below my mouth guard, so it wasn't even like it was like just on my teeth. I was like, okay, that's gonna be expensive. Nope, I'm out. But I mean, if Dean Lister that got tapped with that as well, the kisser from Josh Barnett.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
bro, if Dean Lister tapped to that, it's legit as fuck. If the guy's big enough, it's legit as fuck.
Yeah, Josh Barnett's also legit. Man, he's a huge human, eh?
Jesus, yeah.
But you know, like how I love Josh Barnett because like he's the one guy who can make like catch wrestling work.
Yeah.
But like a funny story is back in like 2019, I think. Yeah, must have been. I went over to the States and I was in California for a little bit, and a good friend of mine, I mean, that's questionable considering what he did, but he signed me up for 2 comps on the same weekend. One was the Saturday and one was the Sunday. So I'm like, oh, wow, thanks, man. Like, thanks for helping me with that. It's like, you're welcome. So competed the first day, and on the second day, I drove down to Dana Point, which is like between LA and San Diego. And in my division was a trials bronze medalist and Josh Barnett's main training partner. And this dude fucked me up, man. I was like some fresh purple belt. Yeah. And I was like, I had no idea what to do against someone that big, And I was just like, he's fucking good. And he came out with like wrestling shoes on and a UFC, the like Performance Institute, like rash guard.
What was the rule set? Was it?
It was
no heel hooks and stuff?
Yeah. No, they were heel hooks.
Oh, okay. Fuck, that's ballsy, bro. Going wrestling shoes in a heel hook.
Yeah, I think he deserved the confidence, eh? Like, I mean, he fucked me up. I think he finished me with like an Americana from side control, and Josh Barnett was cornering him. And I got off the mats and I was like, "Hey, bro, seeing that your mate just beat my ass, can I get a picture with you?" And he's like, "Don't worry, bro. He does that to me too." And I was like, "What the fuck? Like,
who is this guy?
This guy's competing on a Sunday in Dana Point, bro. Like in a high school gym. Like, what the fuck? just for fun." I was like, "Holy shit!"
For a medal.
Yeah.
Crack up.
But yeah, my guard got very good after that. I was like, I never really want to be Americana from side control again.
Yeah. Losing, especially losing bad, really changes your game, eh?
Oh yeah.
It's
I think losing is one of like the best ways to improve your game, because if you honestly can sit down and like watch a losing performance back, you can make so many gains, man. I've now lost to the winners of 2 ADCC trials heavyweight divisions, and I've learned more in those matches than I've learned in 10 years.
Yeah.
And I love it, but some people can't even watch like their winning performances back, and I'm like, bro, like if you've got footage, you should be looking over that all the time. Yeah. But yeah, I've learned so much from that, and I know that other people have learned from that as well, which is quite cool as well, like a good little ego boost. But at the same time, I'm like, man, like there's something that you can take out of every role you have. And some people are like, oh, I don't like open sparring, like because the gains aren't there. And I'm like, you're doing it wrong. Like, every role you should have a goal that you can take in and learn something from.
Yeah. One actual thing I want to ask about this real quick. So I find the reason why I don't compete all the time, I mean, I have been injured, but like that's not really the reason, right? I find that it takes a lot of like a lot of my attention away from everything else in my life.
Oh yeah.
Like it's like such a sink of like anxiety and like pressure and like, you know,
sink,
And so I feel like it's real hard to balance everything else when you're like in that competition mindset.
Absolutely.
And like a lot of the competitors, like even Matty, he's the nicest guy ever, but when he was close to comps, like you could tell like something was different, you know, like,
oh, for sure, man.
Yeah.
And it has to be, if you want to take comp the right way, it is going to be like that. There was a stage at like blue belt and purple belt where it was me and a couple of other guys where we were competing pretty much every weekend. And if there wasn't a competition in NZ, we would fly to Oz and do a Grappling Industries. So Grappling Industries, I'm sure you've heard of it, but like it's round robin, gi, no gi, absolute divisions for both. So in one day, we were getting something like 20 matches.
Jesus.
And then
how do you have the cardio for that? That fucking sounds terrible.
Bro, you don't. And it got to the point where the Grappling Industries have got so big now that in some of the places they do it, it's 2 separate days, and they do gi on the first day and no gi on the second day. I made the mistake of going to one in like 2016 in Sydney that was sub only, no time limit. And this thing ran for 2 days, bro. Gi the first day and no gi the second day. And I think I had 11 fights both days.
Jesus.
It was so sick, bro. It was so mean, eh? Like I definitely couldn't do that now. Like I'm 32 now. Like I would die. Like I'd get through the matches, but I'd be wrecked for like a month afterwards. I mean, I've even done some comps here where like I came back from Vegas from ADCC, and the weekend after we got back, there was a comp in Tauranga, and I had 12 matches in the day, and for a month after that, I was fucked. And so, yeah, it's gonna take a lot out of you to compete, man. But I think I look at it now, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna look at less competitions. And try and like prepare better for them, because when you are competing all the time, you tend to stick in the same cycles of like your techniques, because you have to keep your A game sharp. Yeah. So you actually make less technical improvement in the lead up to a comp than you do at any other time.
I found that as well.
Yeah. So I feel like it's not always the best thing to compete all the time.
But I think like probably for me it would be a good idea, because it seems like at least from the loss I just had, right, it was 2 mistakes in a row, and they were like strategic mistakes. Yeah, I mean, one was technical, one was strategic. So like I got 2-on-1 and like foot tripped, and instead of pulling because there was no points, I just went to turtle. Like why? First of all, and second of all, then I made another technical error where I like tried to sit out instead of just like fighting grips. Okay. You know? Yeah. And so so there was a mismatch of like if I had probably been more experienced, like had more competition experience, at least I would have just pulled guard and entered, like looked for legs. Sure. As opposed to like trying to,
I mean, you know? Yeah, you can make an argument for comp experience, but you can simulate that in the gym as well, bro.
That's true.
I don't necessarily think you get better at competing by competing, because there's been times where we were getting worse. Like me and the guys who were doing that, we were getting worse comp after comp, because it was you're accruing a lot of burnout and overtraining,
maybe even injuries. Yeah, because of the intensity.
Yeah, but even besides that, we were worrying less and less about the looks we were getting, and more about like just trying to make what we had land. Right. So I feel like you can do it in the gym. Of course, it's going to be a change in normal schedule. Like I schedule that into my training now. Like Saturday, religiously is my comp class. Right. For 2 reasons, I feel that that's good. My coach runs it, so I don't come in and learn. I'm there to fuck you up.
Yeah. Like, and that's when you turn it on.
Yeah. And I make no apologies for it, because it's called a comp class. And it's on a Saturday, a day where you'd usually be having fun. So I've been doing that for 5 years. Like, and once again, not to say that I'm like amazing or like I'm good or anything like that. There's a ton of people who are better than me, but if
there comes a self-depreciation. We talked about that.
Yeah. Within the context of the larger grappling
absolutely
scene,
there's always a bigger fish.
Yeah, there's tons of guys who are way better, but like if I, as a 32-year-old high school teacher, can do that and still find success, then there's no reason that others can't do that. And I'm always trying to look for those objective metrics rather than a subjective one. Am I doing well because I'm strong? Maybe. Okay, let's take the strength out of it. Am I doing well because of X factor? Okay, let's take that out of it. What can any one person do, regardless of their physical, mental traits, do to improve the most? Okay, cool, that's the thing. And then let's replicate that. And I think I've been very fortunate that my coach has done that. And I just trust their process because I know that they have that vision. But, I mean, that's the same for those other guys. Like, Izaak, all of these guys, they don't compete every weekend.
Yeah.
If we want to talk about like the Declan Moody's or the Craigs or whatever, a big training camps are like 6 to 8 weeks for them, and that's a long time. Like, that's an elite. You're preparing for a UFC fight pretty much.
Yeah.
And that's a time sink. You have to think about what else you could be doing with that.
Yeah, and in that time you're not developing new stuff, because if you would be, then you wouldn't be sharpening your A game. And
this is assuming that you don't have other responsibilities like kids, family, jobs. So, you know, it's not an even playing field for anyone. And I guess that's the curious thing, because it's like, okay, well, what can you achieve in that time? Because I've seen guys with no jobs who train twice a day still go and lose to the guy who trains maybe twice a week. And yeah, so those metrics are always changing. It's like, it's a real hard balance.
I think I'm like, I don't know if bias is the word, but like, I'm convinced that would make me better based on what I've seen Matty do.
Yeah.
Whereas like living out of his van, fucking just like, bro, he was like drilling with every single person that would ever have time. Like, you have time this way, like, I would go in, someone else would be leaving. Like, what the fuck? You've been drilling back to back, you know?
Yeah.
That guy was on it for years, man. And
Matty's an exceptional one.
Fucking But the thing is, he was also exceptionally talented, like from the get, you know?
He's always been one of those guys who you can tell gets it.
But at the same time, the work, the level of hard work and obsession, I don't think people see that. Like, the hard work you could see, but the obsessiveness that he had, like the amount of times I would just walk in and he'd be in the gym office, like looking at Submeta or some shit. And I'm like, bro, like you've just done like 3 classes today. What the fuck are you doing? You know, like, it was insane.
I think like one of the things I like the most about Matty is like we'd have like a conversation about a single move for like a half hour, you know, or whatever. And like we competed against each other a bunch, and we've competed overseas and stuff against other people and things like that. And like, I think watching his jiu-jitsu is one of my favorite things to do, because I feel like he's a perfect example of that whole kind of the smaller guy with better technique, but he has a great physicality to him as well, that he can handle an absolute division. And like, it's cool,
actually wild looking at his numbers. Like, he was doing like the deepest depth squats that you've ever seen.
That's the grass.
I swear it must have been like, I could be remembering this wrong, but like I remember 140. And like, that was just him like hanging out in the gym, fucking around. And I was like, bro, like, you're smaller than me. What the fuck are you doing? Like, I can barely like squat 80. The fuck is that?
Yeah, I really want to go and I want to go check his gym out now.
Oh
He's doing well.
I've been like here and there,
cool.
like, asking like how it's going and stuff. And it seems to be picking up, which is really cool. I'm really happy for him.
He had a really good match with Reese Allen at trials in Sydney when we went over for that. And Reese Allen just finished second at trials, lost to Kenta Iwamoto.
He was so unhappy and super down on himself for that. He's like, nah, bro, I sucked ass. And I'm like, I don't know, man. The guy looked massive. You probably could have cut to the division below.
Yeah, I would have said so. But like, in saying that, the one thing that I've noticed at ADCC is no one that's cutting weight is making the podium.
Really?
Yeah. That was one thing that I was like really, really interested to see. I could be wrong, but no one that was cutting significantly to go to the like 5 kgs to go to the lower division was winning their division.
I was just surprised. I think Ethan Craigleston fights at 66, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Bro, that guy, how the fuck does he make that weight?
Yeah, I know.
He looks
he's a unit.
Big, bro.
Yeah, I haven't seen him in person, so it's kind of hard.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Sometimes they're like quite short or like or like not wide. You know.
Who did he fight on? Who's number 1 recently? It wasn't Mika Galval. Yeah,
He's had some cool matches recently,
yeah,
though, for sure.
Yeah. I've learned some interesting things from the way he does his jiu-jitsu. It's cool, eh? But yeah, man, like, I don't know, like, I tried to cut weight, like, for 1 or 2 tournaments when I was a white belt, and I've never performed worse in my life. And it was also the most unhappy I've been in the time I've been training, because it guaranteed the week of your comp, you're like 2 kgs over where you should be. And then you just do all this dumb shit, and then you feel even worse, and it's anxiety on top of what you've already got. Yeah. So I don't know.
For me, it just turned me into an asshole. Like, I had no sex drive. I was a dick to everyone. Like, it was just like, why am I doing? I'm not getting paid for this shit. Like, that was the one division I actually like cleaned out all subs and I won and stuff, and I felt super strong. But like, it's not worth. Like, I'd rather lose and be like cool and like. Happy in my life than like fucking kill myself to get under 67.
Yeah, the unhealthiest I've ever been was in that period when we were doing that, because to stay like under 90, I would be around like 89 and under 88. Looking at that, I was like plant-based for like quite a significant period. Like, I would say maybe like 2015 through 2018, I was like plant-based. I've never been unhealthier. I've never been more like miserable and more injured.
Yeah.
And so now, like,
it's just hard to eat enough plant-based, and it's hard to eat enough protein. Like, I know you can, it's possible, but like, you have to eat so much volume.
Yeah. And the other thing was, I'm one of, there's 2 kinds of people, right? Those that live to eat and those that eat to live. I live to eat. So like 95% of my meals were just like things that I just hated. And then, so I'm not getting any pleasure from that either. So like, you know, people want to talk about like that whole, like the warrior monk kind of thing. And it's just like, yeah, that's all well and fine, but you have other shit going on in your life. And if you're a full-time athlete and like, that's where your money's coming from, maybe you can make the argument that like the sacrifice is worth it. But like, realistically speaking, you know? Yeah. Well, I mean, if that's where your money's coming from, then that you should be doing that.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. But like, you know, like, I'm never going to be Gordon Ryan. So like, what the fuck's the point? I'd rather enjoy my life, you know?
Yeah. I mean, like, I think the times you perform best are also the times that you are happiest. Like, we can say what we want about like your physical health, but if your mental health isn't there, you're not going to perform well either. Like, and I think that, I've been watching Breakpoint on TV, on Netflix, the tennis. It's like Drive to Survive, but for tennis.
Oh, okay.
It's quite good. And the one thing that they do extremely well is like kind of show you the mindset of like these top tennis players. And I keep going like, fuck, I can't believe how much of a basket case this person is.
Yeah.
And one thing I'm starting to realize is if you can keep everything on an even keel mentally coming up to a comp, you can probably overperform where you maybe haven't done the physical prep to the best of your ability. And like, I would say maybe I'm like a good case study for that, because like the times I've done anything well, like here in New Zealand, we maybe don't have access to the best jiu-jitsu training partners. But if I've gone overseas or internationally to compete and done well, I've overperformed for sure. And I'll be the first one to be able to point to them and go like, yeah, I definitely overperformed there. Like when I did the Vegas Open, like in Thomas and Mack, like I overperformed and I went like 2-2. And that's like an overperformance. Not having prepared at all, literally working the Future Kimonos booth and then running down to do my division.
Yeah.
Like,
I heard that episode when you were talking about that.
Yeah.
It was cool. Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah.
And because I was having fun, I did well. It wasn't because I've been like, this be all end all of everything.
Yeah. And no stress.
Yeah.
You're just in your flow state. You're just like, fuck it. Let's see what happens. Like fuck around.
Yeah. So I felt like those kind of ones are the times where I've done my best.
So now the question is, how do we cultivate that when we are fully like prepared and we've done the bike sprints and we've done the hill sprints and the fucking, you know, all the shit that you don't want to do.
Yeah.
And then still cultivate that mindset.
I think it's, man.
For John Jones, that's getting blackout drunk the week before, but you know, everyone's got their own strategy.
Yeah, man. I don't necessarily think Coke and hookers is going to do it for everyone, eh? But yeah, that is that is the question. That's the art in preparation. But I certainly felt like I struggled with that the most at this last trials, but it paid off in different ways. Like I still definitely don't have my comp prep down, and I would say even pre-smooth comp, I've probably done something like over 100 comps now, and I still twist dials and try and figure new things out to like put me in the best possible headspace for it. What worked for you one time might not work for another time. Like I think, yeah, that's the real question, eh? You also need an experienced coach to be able to do that, because you can't expect to hold that all yourself. Because if you try to, you're going to slip up on something. You know, you're going to slip up on one thing at least. If you've got a coach who you're paying and, you know, who's guiding you and stuff, it's kind of their responsibility to make sure you can get to that in the best mindset, eh? But yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to do alone. That's for sure.
I don't think you can. I mean, yes, individual sport, like being what it is with jiu-jitsu, you still can't achieve anything without other people. Like you need training partners, you need bodies to roll with, you need a coach, you need video study that other people have done, you need other people. So yes, you're out there competing on your own, but it's the team of people you have around you before that gets you there.
Yeah, I definitely think that's one of my favorite aspects. It's like you're out there by yourself, but in a sense, it's still very much a team sport.
Oh yeah, 100%. And yeah, like yes, you are thinking about yourself, but you're also thinking about all of the work that everybody else has done to get you to that point. So in a way, there's always going to be pressure, regardless of what sport or whatever. But in a way, you can manage it and manufacture it. And, you know, like if you can keep yourself in that state where it's like, you know, these people have done all of this to help me, and I'm just going to go out here and try and do my best to stay true to that, I don't think you're ever really going to like disappoint, you know, yourself or other people. And I think that's a big fear for like a lot of people. They don't want to disappoint, or they don't see the winning and losing as the thing they're scared of. They're scared of disappointment, whether in themselves or others. And
oftentimes in themselves, that probably roots from an external thing. You know what I mean? Like you're conditioned early on and as a kid or whatever, that like, okay, when I do well, people are proud of me. When I don't do well, people don't like, you know, they don't offer me love in a certain way. So you sort of internalize that, and you think to yourself, well, I have to put this condition on myself, and I need to hold myself to a higher standard, because that's how I actually like engage with the world now. You know? Yeah,
bro. That's a good point. I think one of the best things that was said to me, especially when we were in that zone of competing all the time, I came back from like Oz, and someone was like, oh, I didn't even know you competed, in like an offhand way. And instead of getting offended by it, like, which I shouldn't have anyway, like, I mean, not everything revolves around you competing. I think people forget about that too. It's like everyone's living in their own world. But that was the biggest like revelation for me, was like, bro, like a week from now, no one's going to give a fuck anyway.
Yeah.
Like I could have bombed out in like 10 matches and no one cares.
Yeah.
And like, and that for me, that was such a freeing thing to just then go in without like, I'm still nervous about competitions, but I didn't have performance anxiety.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yeah, I can do whatever and no one's going to care.
Yeah.
And I think if people can figure that out for themselves, like internalize it, they can get onto the competition mat more and go like, yeah, okay, like I feel comfortable doing it. And you also understand that everybody else feels exactly the same way that's there. Like everyone feels nervous like that.
Absolutely.
If they say they're not, they're lying.
And if they're not lying, that's probably a bad thing.
Oh, they're going to lose.
Yeah.
If the competitions I've done worst in, I wasn't worried about.
Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah.
So you're fighting another person, bro. Like, I know some people want to say jiu-jitsu isn't a fight, but they haven't done it.
Yeah.
Like jiu-jitsu
when someone's trying to rip your knee apart, it's kind of a fight.
Just because you're not throwing punches doesn't mean it's not a fight.
Yeah,
like if you look at the dictionary definition, like it's just a struggle between two people. And
you call boxing a fight, and that's very one-dimensional. I mean, you know, jiu-jitsu, there's no strikes, but there's the other aspect of fighting, right? Which is the grapple.
It's So I don't know, that's a Reddit 1A. Like,
you
always see the Reddit person. Like I was like, Hey, what I remember I fuck, I don't know if I should say this, but like I screen captured my match off of Flow with Izaak. And then I posted it on my YouTube page, and I was like, I remember posting it on Reddit, huge mistake. And I was like, hey, watch me lose to Izaak Michell in our fight. And this guy was like, you didn't fight anybody. And I was just like, bro, like, just fuck off, Bro, you know?
Some people are straight nerds,
Yeah,
Like they're just like, well,
Well, actually, the definition of fight is
you know, it's like, you know what I meant. Just,
I'm
you
like,
know.
go sip your Monster. It's all good, bro. Like,
Yeah.
But it's certainly anyone who's done it knows that it's probably one of the hardest things you'll ever do, like physically, but mentally as well. If you turned on, if you don't treat it like an F45 class, it'll be pretty hard to do mentally. I see some people who they kind of come in to just physically be there. You can't just do that, eh? It's not a CrossFit workout.
I'll sometimes do that. I'll be honest, but it's when I'm like burnt out and I'm kind of like, I just want to maintain my habit.
Yeah.
And like, I'll just rock up. It's all good. Like, helps on white belts. Don't have to like, you know.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think in that way, it's still by being there and being a good training partner for others, even if you're not in your prime to like, you've had a shit day or whatever the case is, you're tired, you're there, you're still going to get something out of it.
Yeah, but if you're like looking to improve and actually get somewhere, like you need to be present for sure.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Like I don't like the idea of attendance as a marker for like stripes and belts and stuff like that, because it's like, okay, cool, like you showed up, so what?
Yeah.
You know? But,
I agree with that. Yeah. I think, but then there needs to be, again, the mat time does count for something.
100%.
You know what I mean? Like it's not.
Yeah, it's not totally unaccounted for.
It's like it's not all skill. It's not all mat time, and it's not all your own journey.
Yeah.
It's everything.
Yeah.
All of those things.
Yeah.
And it's like combination of all these things. Like you're not gonna, you know, like if a guy's like 90 years old and he shows up every day till he's 100, you're gonna give the motherfucker a black belt even if he can't submit a 13-year-old.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't matter, you know?
Yeah. I'm sure that dude's probably trying his ass off as well.
Exactly, right? Like fuck, bro, he's walking to jiu-jitsu. Like that's
Masters
enough for
10,
a stripe.
bro.
Yeah,
Masters 10, bro. Yeah, exactly. Like someone recovering from an injury and coming back is also just as deserving of like a recognition of their progress as the person who's there every day.
Yeah, I mean, like I think part of the reason I was like a 4-year purple belt was because I got injured and like I was training.
Yeah.
But I could only train very specific things and like things like that. And like it was just a long recovery. So like my improvement definitely stagnated compared to what it would have been otherwise.
What
you know?
did you injure?
Bro, it's a weird one. Costochondritis. So it's like it's an inflammation of the joint in the chest. Hey. But it's caused by, it's essentially like your rib cage is like a bucket handle. So if you have bad posture and you, let's say, hit your chest for whatever reason, car crashes can cause it or whatever, you create this inflammation, but you have this postural problem where you're constantly rounded and constantly forward, tight back, where it's essentially pressing the rib cage forward.
Oh, okay.
And so it's like spraining an ankle and then continuing to walk on it every day. Like it doesn't let it like heal. Okay. And so it was just like a long thing of like no one knew what the fuck was wrong. I would go to physios and they're like, dude, you look fine. Like it should go away within a month. And it was like a year, 2 years, 3 years. You know, it's just like, what the fuck's going on? Yeah. So it just took ages to like, I found a guy that actually had it. He was a physio and had it and treated it and stuff. And basically like you just need to reintroduce healthy biomechanics. So anything that's opposite of jiu-jitsu, that's what I had to do. And like now I still, if I don't stretch for like a week, it'll come back. It'll come back. But it's, if I maintain my shit, I can do almost everything. Nice. Still can't fully like bench press, and there's a couple like motions that will still aggravate it. But like in terms of jiu-jitsu, like pretty much anything I want to do, I can do.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. It was just like one of those annoying ones. Like no one had an answer.
That's kind of the scariest one, bro. Because you know, if something like you've like hurt your ACL or whatever, the rehab plan's like so easy.
Yeah, at least you know exactly what it is.
Yeah, the uncertainty is bad.
Yeah.
Like,
so I would go in and I'd go with like girls or like, you know, small children, and I'll just be like outside passing, and like, you know, things like that where I don't have to put pressure on my chest.
Yeah, the only things you can like manage.
But and then like slowly over time, I was able to reintroduce stuff, and
like, good on you for like being able to work through it. I mean, I think there's legitimately there's some injuries that you should not be like doing physical stuff on, but like there's those ones like that where it's like if you can still get some work in, that's so good. Yeah, and you'll have got a lot out of that as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and honestly, once I realized what I actually understood it, it got a lot better. But I was like quite depressed for a while because I was like, "What the like?" It felt like I was being a bitch because I'm like, "There's nothing wrong with me, but I'm in pain."
Yeah,
and like, it was like I would wake up in pain. I would hurt to breathe. Like it was that level, you know?
Yeah, man. And there's a lot of people who just like living with stuff like that all the time. Like, I mean, I've fortunately, like touch wood, I've been quite lucky with injuries and stuff. I haven't had anything that's like disastrous. Like I had that rib injury. I broke my hand across 3 of the metacarpals. I've torn an ACL and stuff like that, broken nose, you know, like the kind of like standard jiu-jitsu injury things.
Yeah.
But like,
did you get surgery for the ACL or?
Nah, fortunately I was able to rehab.
Oh, it was like a partial tear.
Yeah, it was a partial tear, thankfully. Yeah. But like, I've always been able to find ways to work around them, and like I feel like that's probably one of the hardest things, It's like when your body's compromised and things like that, how do you like keep pushing forward and making improvements and things like that? And
that's where I feel like the people that want it separated from the people that don't, because it's like if you come back from a serious, that doesn't even have to be serious, but a long injury, that's when you know, like, okay, this guy's serious about it, you know?
Bro, I'll tell you what, there's one guy I know who he came back after breaking his fucking neck, bro. Literally broke his neck, and he came back, and he's still training now. This dude's OG as hell, man.
What the fuck?
Yeah. So we've got a couple of guys who like stuntmen, like legit Hollywood level stuntmen that train with us, and some of the injuries these guys have had are like harrowing, bro.
Yeah.
I'm like, aren't people in wheelchairs from that? And he's like, yeah, you know, but like,
I'm not. Yeah.
And I was just like, bro, okay, you are legitimately built different. Yeah, I don't know. I think, I mean, especially with modern medicine and stuff like that now, more than ever, it's like a time where those kind of, where there was a career-ending injury, like there's now ways around it and stuff. So yeah, I don't know. By the time I hit 40, I'm like going to be straight up on test and like HGH and like stem cells and shit, 100%.
Yeah, I'm happy to wait another 10 years for to see all the studies.
Yeah,
like, you know, there's going to be more and more research, especially because it's getting so trendy now. And like, I'm happy that I'm in a spot where it's just gotten like big now, and I got another 10 years for prime, and then probably like another 5 where I can maintain without necessarily needing anything.
How old are you now?
26.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I got a bit of time, and I'm gonna see what's up, you know?
Yeah, you're doing fine, I was very lucky that I only got into jiu-jitsu proper when I was like 21 already. So like, me and a few of the other guys, that's like quite late if you think about it. Like,
for the highest level, sure.
And for competing, definitely. But yeah, a mate of mine and I were talking about this. He's based in Oz, and we were talking about this the other day, and he's like, yeah, man, you know, like, fuck, I really want to get back into competing and stuff. And I just said to him, you know, it's quite crazy how we were doing that. We were having like 14 competitions in a year, bro. And he'd be like, yeah, like, what's wrong with that? And I was like, you know, like, not even kids who started when they were 8 do that, And he was like, oh, shit. I'm like, how old are you now? 32? Yeah, you're the same age as me, bro. Like, you can't do that forever. And he was oh, yeah, you're probably right. But, I mean, yeah, like, that kind of recovery stuff and things like that it's always there, Like, I think you got to be diligent with it. And now more than ever, when we're like sitting down most of the day or things like that, you have to make conscious efforts to work on it. Otherwise, it's not going to end well,
Yeah, and doing stuff outside of sport as well that's pretty boring, like, you know, band work and shit like that. It's really fucking like, it feels like you're doing nothing, you know, like it's tiring, but it feels like you're doing fuck all. But that shit is going to save your shoulders. It's going to save
bike.
Yeah. Oh my God, don't even. Yeah.
Cold sweats.
Before my last comp, bro, I went so hard on the cardio. Like I was puking almost every fucking cardio session. And then I went in and I got a one-handed guillotine in like the first minute, and then I got tapped with that face crank in the the second match, like first minute. And I'm like, why the fuck did I do so much cardio? I didn't even use it, you know?
Yeah, I think about it, and I'm glad that I've never lost a match because of my cardio. I would way rather have that than the other way around, because I've beaten guys who I've melted with cardio.
That sucks so
and
bad.
I'm like, bro, if you melted to a high school teacher, my guy, like, you need to reassess your PTs, because that should not be happening, man. It's like, I'm drinking a Guinness, like, most nights of the week. Like, you should not be losing to me. But, I don't know. Like, I'd like to see, like, especially when the MMA guys come and do jiu-jitsu comps, I'm like, fuck yeah. No, like, I want to see, like, the level of physicality that they can bring, because it's just like, if you can combine that and like technique, that's like the highest.
I think that's why the wrestlers do so well. Like I honestly think a lot of it, like obviously the techniques carry over, don't get me wrong, but they're just like, they're just better athletes. Like they know how to be an athlete.
Yeah. Well, brute force problem solving is literally a thing. And I don't mean it in like the brute force, like let's club someone on the head kind of thing, but in logic, in philosophy, we've got a thing called brute force problem solving. So like if you take a puzzle, like 1,000-piece puzzle, and it's got nothing on it, like, you know, blank puzzle, and you spend enough time, you can eventually solve that. If I don't know the technique to a Rubik's Cube, if I just sit there and do it for long enough, I'll solve it. That's called brute force problem solving. And physicality can allow you to do that in jiu-jitsu and grappling in a way that technique alone can't. Because I used to have that when I was not very fit, or I was doing comps when I was blue belt, purple belt, hadn't really like figured out the strength and conditioning and stuff. And I'd be like, man, I sure do hope my SLX and footlock works, because that's all I got. I don't have physicality. I got no top game if this doesn't work. And then you'd get a guy who came in and he's like, I actually don't know the logical solution to that puzzle, but I'm fucking strong. Yeah. And I've got good balance and I've got this. So I'm going to hit him with those things. And then if I don't have the answer back and I can't meet that, then that guy wins. So I think anyone who's looking at like, who wants to seriously compete internationally, and by that I even mean just jumping the ditch to go and do well in Oz, you have to be doing that now. You can't just be like, oh, well, cool, I've got a slick as De La Hiva Berimbolo sequence. Good fucking luck, bro.
Yeah.
Like,
unless you're Lachlan, because he says he doesn't do any fucking weights or anything.
That's bullshit.
That's what he says.
Bullshit.
That's fucking what he says.
Yeah. Nah, that's a straight lie.
I don't know, man.
No one's going to ADCC World Championships not doing S&C, bro.
I don't know. I don't know. Like the thing is, the reason why I somehow believe him is just because of his game. It's just like his game is very specific.
He developed that game before he did weights and stuff. Right, when you can enhance your game with that, then that's
I got to imagine that like, you know, hamstring curls would help his game. You know, when you're inverted and you're fucking throwing a guy across you, like surely that's got to help.
But with how with how healthy and how fit he looked at that ADCC when he had that run in the absolute, there's no way that he was not doing S&C.
I don't know. Maybe he's a fucking liar. I don't know what to say, man. I don't know.
I don't believe it, man. I just straight up don't believe it. But yeah,
I mean, he's good anyway. Regardless whether he does it or not, he's fucking amazing. Yeah. But yeah,
I mean, if like you looked at like Prime Marcelo. He was fucking just like this big
tree trunk motherfucker. Yeah. Those legs, bro.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think you can't get your S&C from training, but you got to be real good at doing that. And like, I don't think
specific about it.
Yeah, I don't think you're doing that going to an open mat on a Friday and getting 12 rolls in. I think if anything, that kind of training is probably detrimental to your strength and conditioning, and putting you in more of a deficit than it's putting you in a positive. Not that it's not good to do that, and I love doing that. I love chucking a gi on and go get 2 hours of rolling in. Like it's fun, but that's it. Like, did I make major technical gains? Did I make major strength gains? Probably lost. Probably came out with a negative, but yeah.
Yeah, could be.
Yeah.
Cool, man. What's next for you? You got any comps that you're organizing? You got
so we'll probably
anything you're jumping in?
Yeah, so I mean, we'll probably look at a future cup again in the first like couple months of this year. Matchmaking and stuff for that. Once we confirm a date, I'll start messaging people about that. Any competitors who want to jump in, and I say competitors because you don't get a super fight by just not competing. Like, I think what I want is like, my only criteria for the show is that people are like active competitors, because then I know you can actually make it to stuff and you're not going to pull out.
Yeah.
So they can hit me up if they're an active competitor. I likely already know who they are, but if somebody wants a super fight, I'm always happy to try and make a interesting matchup, but they have to be a known quantity. And I don't think that that's I'm not trying to gatekeep or anything, but I think that's a legitimate ask, especially when we were coming up. Getting a super fight was like you'd kill your grandmother for. But it seems like today a lot of people, they feel like they can just get one. So yeah, we'll do that. My main focus this year is the next ADCC trials. So that's in May. So I'll be preparing for that.
Because isn't ADCCs every 2 years?
Yeah, so they've got 2 trials for each region. So
2 years running, like back to back.
Well, the way it works out is that the championships are every 2 years.
Yeah.
But in between that, pretty much like the time running up, they have the trials for all the different regions.
Right.
So we're going to see the next round of Brazilian trials, or South America trials as they're called, and the next Oceania trials coming up. So pretty much already back in preparation for that now, just kind of building on the momentum from the last one. You kind of start to dread the preparation, but also like I'm quite excited for it. That's going to be, in May in Thailand, of all places. I think they're streaming that on Flow again. So like the cool thing now is that all the trials are streamed on Flow. But yeah, so that'll be the big one. And then regardless of the result, I'll be going to Vegas for the championships, either to do the Open, because that's fucking awesome. And like when you're doing the Vegas Open,
is the Worlds also in Vegas, or is that a different?
Well,
okay.
yeah. So that's the cool thing that they're doing now, because they've got T-Mobile for the weekend. So they're going to do the kids championship as like a ADCC Open the day before. And then they're going to have an adults ADCC Open in T-Mobile the day before. And then the championships, which run the 2 days. So regardless of the result of trials or not, I'll go over to Vegas, probably work with Future Kimonos at the booth or whatever the case is, and then compete in that.
Cool.
And yeah, like I just enjoy that ADCC rule set, and like like it's just one of the most surefire ways to get access to like the highest level of jiu-jitsu guys, because they all come out whether it's the Open or the championship or not. Some of the guys who missed out on an invite or a like an invitational spot, they're doing the Open. Like Andrew Tackett and those guys, he won the last Open, and like he had something like 11 matches in the day.
Yeah,
bro.
Fucking crazy.
So yeah, they're good fun. It's super intense, but I just love doing it. So and then jump in a bunch of local comps, and the standard. There's a bunch coming up. A friend of mine, Jay, is running that stealth stealth submission only series now. So yeah, those are always good fun. I have a bunch of students doing that, and
the stealths and the manas were fun to watch. I just went back and watched Matty's run on one of those, and I was just like, bro, so fun.
God, yeah, mana. That was a good time back in the day.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like I think the local competition scene's probably healthier than it's ever been. Like there's so many comps now that like competitors really can pick and choose, and there's a lot of experience to be gained there. So yeah, I have to be a little bit more selective. I'd love to still just be able to do like 14 comps in a year, but like got other shit to do, like life starts to get in the way a little bit. But also when you're doing bigger ones, you just have to kind of focus on building and trying to time everything right, and you can't just keep running against the wall. So it'll be pretty busy, but yeah, back to school and back to work soon as well, so that'll a healthy dose of reality. Yeah. How about yourself?
Cool, man.
You looking to compete?
Yeah, again, for me, it's the thing of like injuries. So like I'm still managing this chronic condition essentially.
Yeah.
And it's getting better like every month essentially. And it's like I've read people, because I go on like Reddits for it and stuff. Some people have had it 10 years. Like it's insane.
Damn, bro.
But they didn't do all the things they needed to do. And it like, you know, you got to do the right stretches and develop like thoracic mobility and there's all sorts of stuff. So
I guess it's going to be dependent on
how I feel with that. Yeah. So like the last ADCC that I did, well, like New Zealand ADCC. I don't know if it even counts.
Yeah,
it's fucking.
They all count, bro.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. Like it's not a trials or anything, but the last ADCC comp in Auckland, I felt pretty good.
Nice.
And I didn't get re-injured, so I was like, okay, cool.
Awesome,
like that's
bro.
pretty mean.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see how I feel.
Gi will probably be a little bit more forgiving on that than the gi as well, eh?
Yeah, and again with the gi, that's the hands that I'm worried about. So I probably won't jump in the gi, but yeah, no gi. Cool. And looking at mostly like heel rule sets that allow heel hooks, because that's
nice.
If I'm gonna play guard, that's gonna be the general strategy. So
cool,
yeah.
Dirty leg lock. Welcome to the club. Welcome to the club.
But outside of that, we're just trying to do more cool conversations, post stuff online. You know, cool. There's a few gigs that I'm kind of toying with, and like a couple shows that like me and some other magicians are talking about. Cool. So there's a bunch of stuff going around, awesome. But yeah, nothing too crazy. Just kind of trying to keep the habits and keep doing everything.
Yeah, just keep moving up.
Yeah, man.
Awesome. Thanks,
where can people find you? Like, what's the...
probably best way at the moment is just through Instagram. Just find me on Articulate BJJ on Instagram, or the YouTube page. It's nothing massive, but like I just post some of our technical stuff on there, and you know, it's just free content for people to have a look at if they want to. So yeah, Articulate BJJ on YouTube.
Yeah, no, man, your Instagram stuff is real cool.
Thanks,
yeah,
man.
there's like a lot of like those like post training little talks and stuff. Those are nice, man.
Yeah, I just try to keep it like what do I want out of content? Like what would I engage with somebody's content? Because like there's a lot of shit out there, man, and like I'm not going to be showing some revolutionary like fucking inverted whatever, or like technically there's a lot of guys you can look at or go buy DVDs, but like if I can share some of those like harder to access things, then like I'm gonna share it. Otherwise you know, like I mainly just use it for like conversations with people. Like a lot of people will like DM me asking about like this or that, and like I'm always happy to have those conversations to an extent without charging people. But like either, you know, they can find me online there, or training at Tukaha BJJ in the city, or Future Jiu-Jitsu most nights. Coaching down there Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday.
Real cool venue too. Like the gym is cool. Like real nice vibe, open space. It's real cool.
Yeah, James has done awesome job with that spot there. So yeah, you know, the gym's still growing. Like we are still relatively new. So we're really just trying to push to get like the new market community to come in, and yeah, like we've got Muay Thai and kickboxing and boxing and even dance lessons and stuff there. So, you know, people can come in and do whatever anytime. And yeah, that's pretty much where people can find me. Yeah.
Cool, man. Awesome conversation. Thanks for coming on.
Man.
And
I appreciate it. That was awesome.
Yeah, I'll see you around the comp someday, I'm sure.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Awesome.
Oh, man, dude. That was cool.
How long was that? 3 hours. Woo! There it is. Yeah. Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, absolutely.